live now with this webinar. I'm very pleased to welcome you all to today's workshop on wildlife crime. On behalf of all the partners of the LIFE EuroLargeCarnivores project. My name is Moritz Klose, and I have the pleasure to guide you through this workshop today. I lead the European Species Conservation Program for WWF Germany, and together with my team, I coordinate the LIFE EuroLargeCarnivores project. There are 16 implementing partners across Europe who are involved in this project, and their goal is to help to improve coexistence with large carnivores around Europe. How are we doing this? Mainly by addressing human-wildlife conflicts and identifying ways to help people and large carnivores to share one environment. We try to foster exchange of experiences and cross-border cooperation. And we believe that there is a lot that we can learn from each other beyond national borders when it comes to coexistence. A big focus of the work of the project actually lies on managing human-wildlife conflicts. For example, how to monitor conflicts and how to prevent damages, for example, by protecting livestock from depredation by wolves. Often these conflicts pose a direct or indirect threat to the conservation and recovery of large carnivores across Europe, because these conflicts can result in opposition against these animals and ultimately in illegal killing of large carnivores, which is one of the key conservation challenges for wolves, lynx, bears, and wolverines. Obviously, wildlife crime does not only affect large carnivores in Europe. As you all know, illegal killing, taking, and trafficking of wild fauna and flora is a global problem. It threatens the survival of charismatic and lesser-known species. It's a serious problem and a serious crime. And it seems that around the globe there are very similar difficulties in preventing and prosecuting wildlife crime. To name just a few, it's lack of knowledge on the extent of crime cases. Very often offenses remain undetected and there is a high dark figure. There is a lack of awareness among prosecutors and the judiciary of the seriousness of wildlife crime. And there is a lack of equipment, limited training opportunities, and sometimes poor governance. As a result, there is a very low rate of successfully prosecuted offenses. And actually, the motivation to organize this workshop was to show some examples from across Europe of tools and approaches or simply experiences, how wildlife crime can be prevented, better investigated, documented, or prosecuted. So we have an amazing line of 7 speakers from 7 countries today, and it turned out to be quite an intense agenda. Frankly speaking, the workshop has really turned more into a conference, but don't worry, there is some time for you this afternoon to work and network in our 3 breakout sessions. I'm very excited to say that we have over 350 registered participants from more than 40 countries, from all fields and professions, from authorities, from NGOs, and so on. And I think we'll really go on a journey today across Europe and across different fields of wildlife crime. We will hear about prosecution and law enforcement in Italy and Norway. We will hear about dogs and how they can help prevent wildlife crime. We will hear about wildlife crime on the Iberian Peninsula. We'll also hear about birds and birds crime and transboundary cooperation and fighting bird crime. And we will learn about smart tools in observing environmental crime and also about data collection. So before we start, I have a few technical announcements I want to share with you. So firstly, this webinar will be recorded, so people will have a chance later to look at this webinar. Please do not use the chat box, but use the Q&A button if you want to ask questions. For those of you not familiar with Zoom, have a look at the bottom of your screen and there is a navigation bar and you see there is a chat box and also a Q&A button. So please use the Q&A section to ask your questions to the speakers. After each talk, there will be some time. We will select a few questions we can answer in the audience, and some of the speakers can stay a bit longer to maybe answer your questions in the Q&A session later. There is interpretation for the first talk from Italian to English. So make sure you have a look at your navigation bar again and locate the interpretation button. There is the interpretation button and you need to select your language. So basically, if you want to hear the Italian presentation from General Conti translated into English, you need to select the English language channel. Also, there will be two breaks, one 15-minute break at 10:45 and a 30-minute lunch break at 12 o'clock. Yeah, and then at the end at 1:30, you will have the chance to take part in some more focused discussions. We have prepared 3 breakout sessions. I will say a bit more later today. So now I'm very happy to announce our first speaker. Our first speaker is General Massimiliano Conti. He is head of the CITES department at the Italian Arma dei Carabinieri, and he will talk a bit about the structure of the Carabinieri, his experience in investigating and preventing wildlife crime in Italy, and also about international collaboration with other law enforcement organizations. So again, make sure you have selected the right language channel, and General Conti, the floor is yours.
Grazie molto per la partecipazione, per l'invito. Cerco di avviare la slide. Eccomi. Io sono, come diceva Moritz, sono il comandante.
I'm a commander of the CITES units of the Arma dei Carabinieri. I'm a president of the scientific commission from CITES in Italy. And my department is part of an organization which is the Carabinieri Command for Forest and Environment, which is particularly structured. Within our commando, in the Carabinieri Command for Forest, Environmental and Agri-Food Protection, we have more than 7,000 units or agents involved, and almost more than 1,000 command stations spread over the national territory, 150 of them in national parks. And we also have about 200 investigation departments. So it's a very large structure that gives us the chance to investigate at 360 degrees and protect the environment. The Carabinieri Command is divided into 4 sectors. So the protection of the biodiversity, the protection of forests, the protection of the environment, and the agri-food protection. My department is within the Command for Forest and Biodiversity, together with the unit that is in charge of protection of national parks, and it has the responsibility to protect the 130 national parks, which are the jewel of the biodiversity in Italy. So this is the most precious part of our natural environment, and this is protected by our own organization. We have constant interaction with the Ministry of the Environment and with the Ministry of Agriculture, and mainly of all with the Ministry of Environment, also with the CITES authorities, and together with the scientific commission of the CITES. But the heart of our department is the operational department. So it's the operational organization. we have two separate sections at a central level. As you can see, one section that is focusing on the anti-poaching unit. So mainly anti-poaching of especially protected species from national and international legislation. Also the fight against illegal fishing, and mainly of all the fight against the abuse of animals. In this sector, we are very much taking part also in this fight against cubs, and especially from Eastern Europe, Serbia, Hungary, and so on. But the other section is mainly in charge of the enforcing of the Washington Convention, which is monitoring the international trade of flora and fauna species that are at risk of extinction. And then also illegal logging is a very important part of our activities. It's the illegal deforestation of our parks and our forests. This is all organized at a national level, and we have a very structured way to do that. We have 35 hotspots and 46 structures in which we have about 350 units and soldiers that are solely dedicated to these activities. So when it comes to fighting poaching, the Carabinieri army has a central role in the coordination and the carrying out the prevention and repression of poaching in Italy. Italy is one of the countries in which, that is more important countries for this. And we also have a governmental approach to fight the crimes against birds. And this is spread over 7 black spots. These are the areas in which this phenomenon is particularly intense. You can see on the Italian map from north to south, the Lombard and Venetian Prealps, the Po Delta, the Apulian wetlands, the southern Mediterranean coasts, the southern Sardinia, the Strait of Messina, and the western Sicily. In these areas, we carry out continuous actions against endangered species, and this is prevention of poaching, especially during the migration periods of the wild fauna. This made sure that we carried out a consistent activity of fighting illegal trade of eggs and chicks, and also falco lanario and falco lanario, and made sure that the European Commission was fighting an offense that Italy carried out before the phenomenon of the poaching. And I would like to show you one operation that we are particularly bound to, and that carried out a certain success, which is the free wildlife operation. And this is still within the sector of the illegal trade of wild fauna. This is an operation carried out 2018 that was carried out thanks to the support of Europol. We arrested 10 people that started an illegal activity of more than 3 million euros. And very important, we were able to seize 10,000 live birds that we were able to bring back in nature. There were more than 80,000 dead birds. These should have been sent to be sold as live decoys. And this is mainly for the male species that are particularly loud. The female species were supposed to be sent or sold to restaurants. The unit, or the CITES Central Unit, focus its whole activity in enforcing the Washington Convention laws. We are a certification unit, so every year we release more than 70,000 EU certificates. But the one thing that mainly affects all the 46 units spread over the national territory is represented by the investigations. And as you can see in 2019, and was more than 2020 because of the health emergency. So it was 2020 was less significant compared to 2019. And there are continuous campaigns carried out at national and international level. I think it's interesting also to mention a few campaigns that were more recent from the last months. As for example, amongst the national campaigns, we had Golden Tasks. Golden Tasks was aimed at fighting the illegal trade of ivory. So we carried out more than 300 controls of auction houses, online trade centers that were selling these items. We seized more than 400 objects that were worth more than €500,000. This is to show you that the illegal trade of ivory is still very present. And with the reptilia operation, we try to fight the illegal trade of reptiles. Also, in this case, more than 500 controls at breeders or farmers or resellers. And we were able to save or to seize more than 600 live animals. The last campaign that I wanted to show you from Italy is Orient pills. And this one had to fight the illegal trade of traditional Chinese medicine. So we seized in border controls nutritional integrators that contained derivatives from plants that were undergoing CITES protection, and specifically speaking, Surea costus, that is a protected plant from that undergoes the protection from the Washington Convention. Of course, we take part in all Interpol and Europol campaigns. Arcadia, for example, is a campaign that involved very many countries around the world for the illegal trade of wood. Thunder was an operation that fought the illegal trade of live animals. Also, in this case, we were able to seize more than 1,000 specimens of live animals that were undergoing protection, that in almost all cases we were able to bring back to nature. And as you can see, also the impact plan, we are leader in this illegal trade of ivory project. And yeah, we could see a special success here. And this involves the German authorities, as well as Dutch authorities, Belgian, Spanish, Portugal, Ireland, and Czech Republic authorities. Of course, we are talking about international trade of protected animals. Also, illegal trade of flora and fauna. The international cooperation is very important in this aspect. It is one area in which the Army of the Carabinieri are investing a lot. At the moment, we are vice presidents of the Europol Commission, and we have also have one member in the Forestry Crime Working Group, and we are co-driver in the impact project. Of course, we are also within the enforcement group of the European Commission, but we also make sure, and for us it is particularly important to share our know-how in the enforcement. And also the Ministry of the Environment, our Ministry of the Environment with the SRG and the ComSite, also with the Secretary General of the CITES in Geneva. So we are within the Plants and Animals Committee and the Standing Committee and the Conference of the Parties. We also support the Ministry of Agriculture in the expert group for the woods regulation of UTR. And with we are also trying to support where we can the FAO. Also, when it comes to the creation of the affiliate police forces in Africa, we also have a strict collaboration with the rangers, with whom we're trying also to create training sessions. We're still running also training and training sessions that are carried out in Rwanda, Uganda, Zambia, and Zimbabwe, in the Virunga Park, in the International Virunga Park. The training is mainly focused on the topics of protection of wildlife, of the CITES, anti-poaching activities, and the illegal logging. As you can see here from these pictures, this is how we carried out the training sessions for the Rwanda rangers. And there's also a current training activity which we had to stop due to the current conditions, but it was carried out with our Serbian colleagues. So this was mainly focusing on CITES, anti-poaching activities, and illegal logging. And we carried forward a training session also for the Serbian police, for the prosecutors and the Ministry of the Environment. And for only a few minutes, I would like to show you the protection of large carnivores, which is also the main topic of the LIFE project that is carrying out this webinar today. And I would like to point out, especially as environmental agency from the Carabinieri, so we mainly focus on bears and wolves, and we do that also in cooperation with the LIFE projects. At the moment, we are mainly focusing on these 4 LIFE projects. With the first project, LIFE Wolf Alps, we are trying to reduce the conflicts between men and wolves, especially in the area of the Alps. So it's the mountain range in northern Italy. This conflict is a problem that involves all wild animals in these areas. And solving this conflict is vital in order to protect the wolf and bears populations, to create a condition for cooperation is at the root of our operation. And that's why we created this LIFE project. With the Mirko project, we try to minimize the impact of stray dogs on the conversation of wolves, so that the stray dogs do not mix with the wildlife of our country, because this creates hybridation, which we try to prevent. MedWolf is also a project which tries to fight poaching of wolves, and this is connected with the first LIFE project. So there's a high conflict with men. So the main problem here is the poaching. The last project is dedicated to bears. So the small population of bears living in the Italian mountains, and protecting from all sorts of risks. All these activities see also the help from canine units. We have 20 dogs which are trained for detecting poisonous baits. Poisonous baits are a form of poaching which is very dangerous for large carnivores, wolves, bears, but also other species like vultures. But they could be also very dangerous for children or for pets that might walk in the mountain regions, and they share the same environments. Therefore, the verification and contrast activities of this kind of poaching is very intense. And one operation that we carried out a few weeks ago in Emilia-Romagna, so on the Apennine regions in the central regions of Italy, was within the MedWolf project. This involved Alma, our Labrador, that was able to find many poisonous baits that were set for the wolves in that area. With the Avelupo operation, and I would like to stress this operation because it shows our commitment to fight hybridization in some breeding centers with the Czechoslovakian dog wolf. Why are they carrying out this hybridization? Because the specimens that result from that are very appraised because they look like very healthy and very beautiful dogs. But those are also very aggressive specimens, especially for their owners. And they also are dangerous for the genetic hybridization. So we collected more than 229 hybrids in 54 provinces. We still carry out researches here, and more than 200 people were arrested for fraud that spent more than 5,000 euros per specimen. Sorry, they were not arrested, but fined. And I would like to end my presentation with a very important project that we're carrying out to protect the small population of Marsican brown bears that are living in the central Apennine region of Italy, especially in the national park of Lazio, Abruzzo, and Molise. These are smaller brown bears compared to the one living in the Alps. Only 60 living specimens are out there, and they're very endangered. We also set up a documentation for them in order to fight wild poaching, but also a documentation that monitors their attitude towards human beings, because they might also become too confident with humans. So this is also a very important operation for us, because we want to give high priority to this species, because yes, as I said, it is very limited. So I thank you really very much for the attention. I hope this was interesting for the audience, for the large audience we have today, and I stay at your disposal for any questions you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, General Conti, for this presentation and the extensive overview of the work you are doing. I thought it was very interesting to see how much Carabinieri Forestali is involved in also national but also international work and all the different areas of wildlife crime, including domestic species, but also trade of international wildlife products and species. I'm looking at the Q&A section. We have one question from Norway about wolf poaching. Do you see a strong connection between the use of bait and poaching, especially on wolves and foxes?
Riteniamo che i bocconi avvelenati siano destinati prevalentemente ai lupi. In queste settimane purtroppo riceviamo tante segnalazioni di lupi avvelenati o uccisi da colpo d'arma da fuoco.
And wolves that were killed from firearms. The increase of the population, and we are very proud that the wolves are coming back to the Italian mountains. But unfortunately, in some areas, especially in Tuscany and Veneto, there were some problems, because this created conflict with the local population. So we found wolves which were hanged, or also very many others extreme scenarios. We're trying to make sure that the population understands that the wolf is an enrichment of the mountain population and not a risk. But we think that the poisonous baits are mainly targeted to wolves, and in some cases also to bears.
Okay, thank you. Clear and precise. We have another question.
Ok, un'altra domanda.
What can we do when we find a protected species sold on the internet? So I guess the question points into the direction, what is the right procedure if you see on the internet protected species are being sold illegally? What is the right approach to take?
Well, this is a very important question because the illegal trade of protected animals, of parts of derivatives, is shifting mainly to the online world. Sometimes it is also pretty clear because also we see that on large platforms, but sometimes also on dark web platforms. It's very difficult to fight against this trade because it is difficult to find the sellers. They usually use phone cards for the selling that will be deactivated. So SIM cards that will deactivate. We are also trying to coordinate with international police forces in order to put in place better resources to fight online crimes. It is the new, it is the new frontier, so to say, of international fighting. So it is important that we also cooperate with those which are experts in this area, so that we could find these people before they deactivate their SIM cards. We see that also a lot in the trafficking of cubs and small animals. This is happening in many occasions, and it's very difficult for us to understand who is behind the SIM card or the internet card that these sellers are using. It is important to act early, yes, in order that we could find out who these people are before they deactivate their SIM cards.
Thank you. Another question that concerns more the causes of wildlife crime. Are there any projects you are aware of or you are involved in that have the aim to change people's attitudes rather than just trying to prevent the crime? So I think this goes a bit into the social dimensions, into the cause of illegal actions towards wildlife crime. Do you have any experience to work with people to change their attitudes, to create more acceptance, for example, to prevent wildlife crime?
Yes, we have a close cooperation with schools and also with the communities. The environmental awareness and education that we carry out at school must be targeted. If I may give you an example of 30 seconds. In certain areas in Italy, the poaching of fauna is connected to traditional cuisine. So they kill certain animals for typical dishes, especially in northern Italy, but also in Sardinia. We cannot go to schools. It's not really useful to go to schools and point that out, and also trying to criminalize the traditions from their parents and grandparents, because they are just trying to carry forward a few traditions in the cuisine. We're trying mainly to teach them the fascination about these animals. So they shouldn't be part of typical dishes. So they should recognize that these are fascinating species that could even travel through oceans, and that they could migrate for kilometers and many miles per year. So just trying to educate it and teach them the fascination about these animals. And we also use documentaries from National Geographic or cartoons. So there are many beautiful examples for that. So we try to change this approach so that they don't see in these examples a tradition that you want to eat, but something fascinating. So in this way, we could also get a few results. Killing some birds just for eating them, that is not useful, especially if you think about killing animals that they always saw on the plates of their parents and grandparents. But teaching them that this might be very important animals for the environment might bring concrete results. But you need, yes, to teach them these tools with pleasure.
Thank you. There are many more questions coming in. We have some time, I think, to answer a few more. Next question is regarding wolf-dog hybrids, which are also said to be more aggressive. Do you have any experience with that or knowledge about that? Are they more aggressive towards humans or other animals? And do you know any cases of attacks or aggressive behavior that are documented in Italy? And also what happens with confiscated hybrids? What happens to them?
Well, yes, after the Avelupo operations, I might talk about the hybrids of wolf and Czechoslovakian wolf that are sold as dogs from breeders with a pedigree. So we're trying to stop the importation of Czechoslovakian dog wolves until we don't have the certainty that they have a percentage of DNA that is above 34% of wolves. So they are hybrids. So other than genetic pollution, they are also very dangerous. So there was an episode in the Piemonte region close to Turin where they they ate and they mauled an owner. So we thought that this might, so we are thinking that this might be a dog wolf, a Czechoslovakian dog wolf. Of course, the wolf never approaches man. It is a very strong animal. It is resisting, but it's not approaching them. But the hybrids are more dangerous in this sense. So they're more dangerous than wolves. Both the hybrids that are born from mating in nature and with stray dogs. But these dog wolves are sold for 5,000 to 6,000 euros. But if they have an excessive DNA of wolf, so more than 35%, then this is dangerous. So we also heard about more cases than this, just this one with the old lady being attacked by these.
Okay, thank you. One more question. Do you have can you say something about how efficiently culprits are prosecuted? So you have talked about collecting field evidence, for example, poison baits, but what's the way from collecting field evidence, maybe using intelligence, to prosecution and actually to conviction? Can you say something about that? And maybe also tell us some factors of success, like what are some cases maybe you have in mind where you think there was a successful prosecution? Yeah.
Well, in the presentation, I was talking about the operation carried out on the illegal trade. So where we arrested 10 people. In Italy, there are slow steps forward because the sanctioning of environmental crimes in general, but also wildlife crimes, has not been too severe so far, not too strict so far, especially in the case of poaching. Only rarely the sanctions are enough for those responsible. At legal level, we are trying to make the offenses, or to increase the degree of offense and of severity. So in the recent years, mistreatment was considered an offense, and also the competition of finding protected species. But unfortunately, a lot of sanctions are not enough. There is still not enough awareness in the population for the wildlife crimes and crimes against animals in general. So we are trying to raise the awareness, but also to increase the sanctions compared to the current level of sanctioning. The killing of a recent case in Sicily of Capovaccaglio was very prominent in the recent years. But for example, 20, 30 years ago, nobody would have talked about it. Also, the killing of wolves and bears is already very visible, and it's already something the population talks about. So the sanctioning must be, of course, aligned with the level of the amount of talks that are around these issues.
Thank you. There are many more questions coming in. I think we have time maybe to take one or two more questions. General Conti, there's one question regarding wolves poached in Italy. Do you have a number on the percentage of the overall wolves that are found dead? How many of these are actually poached, are killed illegally? And can you say something about successful prosecutions, like of these poached wolves? How many of the cases are actually solved? Thank you. And what is the typical penalty?
Well, I don't really have the real figures right now, but it's more than 10 and 20 per year. So there are more than 10 or 20 wolves killed per year. It is very difficult to find the responsibles. Recently, we were successful also thanks to a cigarette fag found close to a wolf who has been hanged. And thanks to identifying the DNA in the saliva, we were able to find the offender. And the sanction was very severe in this case. He has been imprisoned for killing a protected species. So this foresees several years of incarceration. But it is very difficult in some cases to find the responsibles. As I said, the killing of animals is sanctioned of a sanction that foresees years of imprisonment. So it is severe infliction according to the Italian code. Sometimes we can only do that with photo traps or with finding the DNA, as in this case, that we can find those responsible. In most cases, it is very difficult to find those responsible.
Okay, thank you very much, General Conti, for your presentation and for taking the time to being with us here today, for answering all the questions. Your presentation sparked a very interesting discussion and very many questions. My team and I will try to solve some of these questions and maybe direct some of the questions. So yes, but for now we are moving on to the next talk. So thanks again, General Conti. And the next talk.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. So the next talk, we are going north now, and we will hear from Norway. We will hear from Joachim Scholden. He works for Økokrim, which is the Norwegian National Authority for Investigation and Prosecution of Economic and Environmental Crime. And Joachim will tell us today about investigation and prosecution of wildlife crime in Norway. Especially, he will present a case study where wolf poachers were arrested and convicted in 2015. The floor is yours, Joachim.
Move on to the hidden and open phase investigations, and then the most central analysis, and finally the result of the prosecution. In the southeast part of Norway, there is a defined area within the green line in the map where wolves have special protection. This is called the management area for breeding wolf populations, and in 2014, the goal was, and had been for some years, to achieve breeding in at least 3 wolf territories within this area. The goal was achieved for the first time in 2013 and later in 2014. This is a politically decided goal, and in 2016 it was changed. The new goal was no longer confined to the management area and included at least 3 breedings in all of Norway, regardless of the management area. This graph shows the development of the Scandinavian wolf population after it became almost extinct in the 60s and 70s. The green line represents the Swedish part of the population, while the red line shows the development of the Norwegian population. An increasing population is here reflected by the increasing number of litters produced as a consequence of successful breedings, but more so on the Swedish side of the border compared to the Norwegian side. And one may speculate whether this is caused by ecological differences on either side of the border, natural population dynamics, or a difference in local success rate in illegal hunting, or something completely different. This is just another way of illustrating the wolf situation, and it deals with Norwegian population and shows the number of individuals per year. The graph represents the minimum and maximum number of wolves counted in Norway, while the dotted lines are the mean values for the 2 graphs during given periods. And it seems that since 1998, there are 3 relatively stable periods with intermittent events when the population increases with approximately 60%. The second increase taking place subsequent to the legal case resulting from our investigation. There is a clear correlation, but we don't know if there is a causation. However, mortality as a consequence of illegal hunting in the Scandinavian wolf population has been studied, and their conclusion in this report, as well as in a scientific paper from the same authors in 2012, was that 50% of the mortality among Scandinavian wolves was caused by so-called cryptic poaching. In 2010, Økokrim started a project which goal was to uncover, investigate, and prosecute a case involving illegal hunting of wolves in Norway, which had never been done before. There were little or no information available at this time, which could be used to start any targeted gathering of intelligence. So we started from scratch in 2010 and worked mainly with information from the public, in addition to searching social media. We were mapping different incidents with more or less specific information, trying to identify reoccurring persons, possible networks, and geographical hotspots. This proved to be difficult because the information flow was relatively slow, the information were often elusive and seldom specific. But then there was a change in the summer of 2013, and change was in the criminal law, which paved the way for a more effective approach. And I'll translate this Norwegian paragraph in the criminal law for you. And the change in question relates to the part of the law dealing with the definition of an organized criminal group and the penalty for committing a crime under this definition. And this is the paragraph 60A in the criminal law, also referred to as the mafia paragraph. And the key element here is that before June 2013, the first part of 60A read, and I translate, when a criminal offense is committed in relation to the business of an organized criminal group, the maximum penalty is doubled, but not increased with more than 5 years. Likewise, in the second part of 60A before June in 2013 read, the definition of an organized criminal group is an organized group of at least 3 persons with the main purpose of committing a crime punishable with at least 3 years, or when a significant part of the business consists of committing such actions. That was the old version of the law, but then it changed. It was rewritten, and the criminal act no longer had to be conducted as part of a business, but it was sufficient that it was part of the activities of an organized criminal group. Hence, the law includes a broader scope of criminal actions. The definition of what is to be considered an organized criminal group was also widened. A group of 3 people or more cooperating in criminal activity was sufficient, meaning that the group no longer had to be hierarchical or strongly associated with certain members. And finally, the criminal offense no longer had to be part of the group's main business plan. It was sufficient that it was an activity they engaged in from time to time. This change had at least two important consequences. First, it was no longer a mafia paragraph, and it became applicable to other criminal activities, as was the case in this investigation. And secondly, it increased the content of the toolbox, which could be used investigating serious environmental crime committed in cooperation by 3 or more people. The change in this paragraph meant that the maximum penalty for reducing the numbers of a natural population of protected animals of an endangered species increased from 6 to 11 years in prison. And a maximum penalty of 10 years or more allows, for example, the police to use measures such as communication control. Between June and October 2013, we found, through posts on social media, reasonable cause for suspicion that 3 or more people had engaged in criminal activity regarding illegal hunting of wolves. We successfully requested the use of communication control, and that proved to be decisive for gathering adequate and sufficient evidence. Without the opportunity to tap into phone calls and SMS messages, we would never have succeeded in bringing this case to court. The communication control takes place during a phase of the investigation where the people which are investigated does not know that it is going on. And during this hidden investigation, we had gathered enough evidence to take action against a number of people. 12 persons from the northern part of the management area were arrested and brought in for questioning, and 6 of these, belonging to the same network, were legally accused of attempting to kill 3 wolves, and 1 of these were also accused of killing 1 wolf. In addition to detailed and thorough interviews of the accused, we seized their hunting weapons and equipment, such as GPS units, their phones, PCs, and other devices storing information. Central in this case was the information gathered from the interrogations, communication control, and GPS units. The combination of this evidence enabled us to reconstruct a detailed geo timeline of the 2 events, and it helped us securely identify additional participants in the 2 criminal events we had previously only suspected. The 2 occasions regarding illegal hunting took place February 15th in 2014, and the other 1 month later. The attempt of killing 3 wolves did not succeed, but an attempt is punished in the same way as a fully executed criminal act. On the account of the information from the different GPS units, we were able to see the detailed movements of the participants in the attempt at shooting 3 wolves on February 15th. We combined this with information from the communication control and interrogations, where they had provided details on some of their movements and whereabouts on this day. Taken alone, this information would be harmless for them to give away, but it enabled us to reveal which persons were carrying which GPS units and track their movements throughout the 5-hour period. Some of them didn't turn off their GPS units after their hunt, so we could also follow them back to their address and in that way identify them. At this point in time, the yellow, black, and green figures, which you see on the map, had chased the wolves towards the orange figure. The orange figure shot 4 or 5 shots along the line towards the blue figure as 3 wolves passed through an open patch in the forest. The white and blue figures occupied 2 other posts in case the wolf crossed the road at these points. And then on March the 14th, 2014, 1 of these persons had observed wolf tracks near a hunting site where he planned on hunting foxes. During the night, a wolf came close to his hideout. The hunter fired shots at it without knowing what it was, but still suspecting it could not be a fox on the account of the size. In the morning, he went out to gather the foxes and he had shot previously and found a wolf by the moose carcass still alive, but badly hurt. He went back to the hideout and got his gun to kill the wolf. And then he called a lot of his friends to brag about the kill and later hid the body in a nearby cottage. When he got home, he started a plan on how to get rid of the body, but was arrested later that evening. And without the communication control, this incident would probably have gone unnoticed. The prosecution was a pretty long process, and it went first to court in 2015. It was in the district court where 5 people were convicted, of these incidents, while one of these were acquitted on the account that he went home before the attempt to kill the 3 wolves had really started. And they appealed this sentence, and in May 2016, it went to the Court of Appeal, where 4 people were convicted and 1 were acquitted. In this case, both parties appealed to the Supreme Court, and in September 2016, the same 4 people were convicted once more, while the acquitted sentence was revoked for the 5th person. So that case went back to the Court of Appeal again in June 2017, where he was convicted. I think that was a pretty short talk, but then we'll have more time for questions, and thank you for your attention.
Great. Thank you, Joachim, for keeping it short and precise and very interesting. Very interesting to hear your concrete experience of investigation on the spot, and also to hear Norway's approach in adapting criminal law to make sure wildlife crime is a serious crime. I think that was quite interesting. Also, some shocking numbers. You said that 50% of wolf mortality is caused by cryptic poaching. So there's a lot to do, and I can already see in the chat there's a lot of discussion going on that on one side you are taking prosecution of wolf crime very serious. On the other side, there's Norway is in the news right now about legal hunting of wolves. But I don't think we'll go into detail here. This would be a very long discussion, I think. So I rather look at the questions here in the Q&A. Can you say something about the main motivation of the poachers to kill wolves? Do you have any idea what is the main motivation in Norway?
Yeah, we got some idea about that, and that is because we had this communication control, and we were able to tap into their phone calls, and they were of course talking a lot about this activity. I think the main reason is that these guys, they were hunters, and the wolves, they are competitors to their game. And it was examples where they were saying straight out that if it hadn't been for us hunting wolves in this area, we would not have had any moose to hunt. Then the area would be empty. I don't think that is a correct assumption, but at least that is what they believe. So what we saw and what we discovered during this investigation was also neighboring networks, probably participating in the same kind of illegal activity. And without exception, these were hunters. They were not farmers, for instance.
Okay, thank you. There is also the question, speaking of motives and of hunters. What can you say something about cooperation with hunters? Is there also cooperation in preventing poaching with hunters in the field?
In order to do that, we have to identify who they are. And in Norway and Scandinavia, there are a large percentage of the populations to engage in hunting in one way or another. They either do it a lot or they do it a couple of times a year. There are many people that are hunters, and most hunters do not break the law. They are law-abiding persons. These are small operating cells, I think, of people engaging in this type of criminal activity, and they are difficult to track down and know exactly who they are. So there is no apparent or wide cooperation with which can target those people who are engaging in criminal activity. But the organization for hunters in Norway and in Scandinavia, they are clear about that they do not accept illegal hunting.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.
Then there's a question of how you cooperate with different enforcement bodies. Are you or your department, do you have any restriction to arrest or confiscate yourself, or do you cooperating and working with the local police?
We are also the police, only the national branch, so to speak, but we have a close cooperation with the local police force in different areas in Norway, especially in those areas which have a wolf population. And the cooperation is consists mainly of sharing intelligence and working out strategic plans to prevent illegal hunting. But there are also the management organizations, the national management organizations that we have a close contact with, and they inform us when they see and experience things in the field, because it is difficult for the police to have a presence in these areas, because it's mostly deep forest, and illegal hunting does not take place in the cities where the police are. But we are in close contact with the management authorities as well.
Okay, thank you. Another questions. You were talking about the controlling of calls and SMS, and there was a question, what kind of evidence did you have to collect first to get the permission from court, or whoever grants this permission, to be able to control the calls or SMS?
As I was speaking a little bit about, there was a change in the law that increased the maximum penalty for this type of crime, and that meant that we only had to identify 3 or more persons which we suspected was engaged in killing wolves, and that paved the way for us getting an acceptance from the court to use the communication control.
Okay, thank you. Another question. Do you think there are further legislative changes necessary to better protect wild animals like wolves, lynx in Norway? Do you think there need to be any further adaptations to wildlife laws or hunting rules or dates to more efficiently even protect the species?
I think that is more questions for the management authorities. We are mainly concerned with the laws as they are formulated at the present, and it's our task to make sure that we investigate and prosecute cases where we have evidence for doing that. a change of the laws and the management practices is more of a political theme, I think, and we are not that concerned with that part of the story.
Yeah, I understand. Another question: is there any knowledge about trading or trafficking of the poached animals? Is there a motivation to sell the animals, the fur? Do you know anything about that?
We have seen some cases where we have found the skin, wolf skin, prepared, and through DNA analysis, we have identified at least one case where this was a wolf, which was a part of the Scandinavian wolf population, but it was found in Norway. Mostly when big game are killed, I think that the poachers in most cases gets rid of the body, so to speak. In this case, presented now, the plan was to burn the body after he had shot this one wolf during a fox hunt, and he was calling to people he knew, trying to get gasoline and old car tires for incinerating the body. So it's getting rid of evidence, actually.
So the motivation is more from an aversion towards wolves, not so much for having the trophy and selling the trophy.
No, just getting rid of the wolves.
Okay.
So the main motivation.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. Another question. In the last appeal, you said only one person was convicted. What were the reasons to acquit these people?
It was in the first case. There was one guy, and he was probably tracking the wolves during the early hours of the day, but then he withdrew and went home before the actual hunting started. So he was acquitted. It was our belief that he had participated enough to be convicted in tracking the wolves, but the court didn't agree to that. The second time in the appeal court, they decided that this was not part of the crime committed by an organized group of people, so that the one acquitted person in the appeal court, and when they decided that, then we were not. They did not use the criminal law, but biologically diversity law instead, and that meant that one of these guys he fell on the outside instead of the inside when it got to the decision. But then the Supreme Court revoked that decision, so it was decided that we should use the criminal law, but then we had to take him back to the appeal court and try him once again, and then he was convicted on this second occasion.
Okay. Thank you very much, Joachim, for this very interesting presentation, and also for taking the time to answer the questions precisely and short. Very interesting. Thank you for being here, and all the best with your work.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We will now move on to the next talk. And we will now hear about how dogs are saving birds in Hungary by sniffing out poison. We've heard in the first presentation a little bit about that already, and there were a lot of questions actually that we didn't have time to answer concerning dogs and their use in sniffing out poison. So I'm excited to announce Márton Avai now from BirdLife Hungary, and he will talk about the use of detection dogs, especially in the Pen and Eagle LIFE project, and how dogs are saving birds by sniffing out the poison. The floor is yours. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, okay. So
Perfect.
Can I just get a short feedback whether you can see the screen?
We can see your screen and we can hear
Perfect.
you very well. Thank
Perfect. So hello, everyone. I'm Márton Avai from BirdLife Hungary, and today I'm going to talk about a bit about the general poisoning issue, the Pan-on-Eagle LIFE project itself, and two cases where our dog unit was involved in searches with large carnivores. So the Pan-on-Eagle LIFE project launched in 2016. We have many partners from the neighboring countries, also some other national parks from Hungary. As you can see, this is the project region where the project actions are being executed, and and one of the biggest step for the project was to train and extend existing dog units from the partner organizations. Altogether, 4 units with 6 search dogs were established or extended. As I mentioned, some partner organizations already had some search dogs before. Also, there are some cooperations with other NGOs which are involved in field investigations, and these field searches are all about to tackle wildlife crime, and more they are quite focused on the poisoning issue. Yeah, the main drive is really the smelling the carcasses. So, but in some cases also the possibility that the dogs can smell the poison itself can play a role more in the house investigations. A bit about Hungary. The first search dog was trained in the framework of the Helicon LIFE project in 2013, named Falco, and you can see a picture on the top. Falco with its handler, Gábor Deák, who is our dog unit leader. Yeah, and these dogs are actually trained in the police training department, so they receive an official training and a certificate, which is really helping when there is a field investigations and when the evidence is being investigated. As a follow-up, in 2016, a second dog, Carlo, was also trained in the framework of Pan-on-Eagle LIFE project, and after the unit had now 2 search dogs. As you can see, the distribution of the poisoning cases, pesticides poisoning cases actually, in Hungary. As you can see, the majority of the cases are situated in the lowland region, So it's like Southeast Hungary, but of course there are some cases where other like the mountain regions are also affected in some cases. In the circles you can see with black the findings of the unit, and the rest is without the unit findings. So as you can see, the unit itself plays a really huge role in investigating and searching like all of the poisoning cases in Hungary, and increase the efficiency quite well. Some words about the poisoning agents which are being used. As you can see, carbamates are on the top, so they are leading, but there are also organophosphates and anticoagulant rodenticides are also detected in some cases. As I mentioned before, the carcasses are being found because of the smell of the carcasses, not the poison itself. So this shows kind of a general overview of what poisons are being used in the region. About the affected species, you can see that common buzzard is leading, but there are also strictly protected species like the Eastern Imperial Eagle and the White-tailed Eagle, and of course they have much so in breeding pairs they have like a really smaller proportion of the, so they have a lot less breeding pairs than the other more frequent species. And as you can see also mammals are affected, like the fox and in some cases it is not written here, but also jackals are being poisoned. Some case studies, like from last year, the spring was a really intense, the end of the winter, and the springtime was really intense in poisoning wise. There was a lot of cases, also many individuals were found. On the bottom you can see some baits which are used and being found. It is most of the cases it is either some sort of domesticated animal parts or eggs, and the offenders use they inject some poison into these baits, and this causes of course the poisoning and sometimes mass poisoning of protected species, but also other species. Another type of poisoning which is happening with, actually they are with legal substances, but they use this in the agriculture illegally, and it also causes more and more frequently poisoning of bird of prey. And in the last 2 years, there was more than 20 Eastern Imperial Eagles which were poisoned with these compounds, which is really a big number compared to other species. One good example of a very nice cooperation between project partners was last year, and in 2019 actually there was a house investigation in 2019. Previously a poisoned white-tailed eagle was found by and reported by the public, and as a result the local police invited our dog unit leader, and also with facilitated by our Austrian partners, WWF and BirdLife Austria. This house search was really successful. A jar of carbofuran was secured, and also protected bird species were found, and they were later proven also positive to carbofuran. And nearly 1 year later, the hunter and gamekeeper was convicted and received a fine and also 6 months prison conditionally and probation of 3 years, which is like really there. It should be, these sentences should be a bit more serious, but it is also it's still a really nice result, because many other cases are not that successful with the house search and finding the offenders. Also, as I mentioned, a few cases where large carnivores were the victim in 2013, so not long after the first dog unit was established in Hungary. Gray wolf was shot in Bük Mountains, and the field search was conducted. And as you can see, the search was conducted 1 month after the carcass was found. So it was really, after 1 month, it was really tricky to find some kind of evidence and traces. But eventually, with the search dog, these furs were traced back, and the location where the wolf was shot could be successfully found. There was another case in 2018, and again, a gray wolf was shot, and it was also recorded by some local trail cams. One thing which was obvious on the field, that the carcass was manipulated, and unfortunately the bullet could not be found. But so eventually neither of these cases were successful in finding the offenders. Of course, reported to the police, and the police investigation went on, but eventually they closed both investigations without any really good evidence. But for as a positive side, this experience, like searching for wolves, later was used also in some kind of monitoring searches. So it was proven that the detection dogs were capable of searching the dog scats, and hopefully in the future we will work together with WWF Hungary, and we will do more of these monitoring searches. Thank you for your attention. If there is any question, I'm really happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you for excellent timekeeping and for this overview of the work you are doing. I will have a look at the Q&A section, and the first questions are coming in. Was it necessary, first question, was it necessary to prove the link between the carbofuran found in okay. So yeah, you mentioned that case where carbofuran was found in the house of a 70-year-old offender, and carbofuran found in the dead bodies of the poisoned birds. How do you actually make the connection that it's the same carbofuran? Like, how do you prove the link?
Well, it is more of the duty of the lab than our search dogs, but as far as I know, there are small differences between the carbofuran they use. Like there are different products which were used, had been used in the agriculture before. So there is some kind of, they vary in the compositions, but it's really, I think it is really hard to detect like which one of them is connected. So in this case, I think it was more crucial that the strictly protected animal was found in the offender property in his fridge, and also it was linked back to the poisoned eagle, of course, but the main evidence was like the house investigations, where this also the poison, like possessing the poison, is also a crime, but also animal cruelty was proven, and also poisoning.
Okay, thank you. Next questions. Do you have the feeling that the use of your dogs is also deterrent to the use of poisoning? So does the presence of the dogs in the on the field, do you think that deters poachers from using poison, laying out poison?
Yes, also in the first project, in the Helicon Life project, this side was really important. But also in Pannon Eagle, we are really focused on publishing the results, not only in scientific portals, but also for the public, and we want to reach like as much as possible. And also we had some cooperation with gamekeepers before, and it is also like having this connection also helps to spread that we have this unit, and it is really successful. And in some cases also the gamekeepers are motivated to find the offenders. Like quite recently, we had a case when a professional hunting dog was poisoned. So this is also with the rodenticides, it could possibly cause serious damage to game species also. So yeah, we try to connect on the other hand, of course, the 90% of the offenders are hunters and gamekeepers. So we have this connection, and we try to use it as well as possible to communicate that we have these units and they are on the field.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Can you say a bit about the motivation for intentional poisoning of birds? What's the reason?
Yeah, I did not mention this, but for predator poisoning, like as the baits you could see, it is basically used against the local predators, very similarly, like as we heard that the motivation is again predators, because the local hunters, gamekeepers, afraid of the damage that these predators are. Also, there is a legal way of reducing local predators which are not protected, but they sometimes still prefer these poisoning compounds because they are really effective in killing, but they are not non-selective, and they kill protected species in large numbers. So the motivation is because they want to increase the game species population. But yeah, as a nature conservation organization, we are more focused on habitat management techniques, and we really try to give this advice to the gamekeepers that with some kind of habitat improvement, they could do a lot better by increasing the game species population.
Thank you. Is there also a short question? Is there also motivation to obtain the trophies of birds of prey?
I think in just some cases, but the majority is not this. It's not about the trophy. Although there are some cases when the body parts of bird of prey are also collected, as we know, this is because it happens with species which are legal which can be reduced legally, like some crow species, and they are usually collect the legs as a proof that they killed like some amount of predators. And in some cases they use this as for bird of prey, so they are sometimes collecting body parts just to prove that they made this damage, but it's not common.
Okay, thank you. Then we have a lot of questions regarding the training of the dogs. So can you say a bit more? How long does the training last? What does it cost? And is it possible to train, or do you train the dogs yourself, or is there certain police institutions that do the training? And where are they trained?
Yeah, so these trainings usually could almost last a year, or in some cases half a year. It depends a lot on the dogs themselves, so like what their capabilities are. But in practice, in some cases, they could receive the exams after 1 year training. Also, for at least in Hungary, these trainings are at the police training department. So they receive this official training, like other police dogs, which like drug detection dogs and other police dogs units. And yeah, what does it cost? I really had to look this into more detailed way. I cannot tell you, like it's approximately like 10,000 euro, around 10,000 euro. Like if we gather all of the different fees, like which is connected. Also the operational cost could be serious. So really with these live projects, we are really helped to operate these units. But on the other hand, they are also play a huge role in the general fight against poisoning issue. So they give, like even one dog could give a really good coverage of our country. Did I miss some of the what did I miss?
I think you answered most of the questions. Thank you. Otherwise, I'm sure somebody else will ask another question. I'll get back to you. We have time for a few more questions. There are so many questions here. Everybody's really interested in the work you are doing, which is
actually one way you can. There is not all of the training is described, but we have an article published quite recently. I'm just going to link it, and there is some more information on the training like the general basics of the training. I'm not going to get into the details now, but you can look it up.
Great. If you copy that into the chat, and we will also include it into the report we will be preparing from this meeting. But we have time for some more questions. I'll take these two questions here. In Germany, we see that actually a lot of animals are shot without being killed. So they are shot during their lifetime, but they don't immediately die due to the shooting. So that makes it even more difficult to find the culprit. Is that seen in Hungary too? Do you have any experience on that? And then also, how dangerous is this work for your dogs? Have you lost any dogs because they got accidentally poisoned?
Fortunately, let's start with the shooting. At least according to our experience, poisoning is a lot more common in Hungary. But of course, because there is this difficulty with finding a shot bird or other species, we cannot be 100% certain. But I think there is now really a really big data coverage originated from our unit, and if shooting would be like twice as much common as poisoning, we would be able to detect this, but that's not the case. For the dangers, in the article I just added, there is some points on this, that the dogs received a really strict training. Even with the feeding, they are very disciplined, and the point is that the dogs must not touch the bait because of the possible danger of being poisoned immediately. As you know, as some of you might know, that carbofuran is really a toxic poison. So even like tiny contact could be lethal. So that is really important. Also, rewarding the dogs is also very strict. So there is no food rewarding. It is more about the play and the kind of play instinct of the dogs that are being used as a rewarding.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Let's try to combine a few more questions here. Can you say a bit more about cooperation with local police forces on the ground? Like, how do you actually start a search? Are you called by the police? Do you cooperate by the police? And do you do a free-ranging search then, or more a transect search with the dogs?
I think the majority of the cases, it is either the local National Park Ranger Service or public are finding the first kind of clue, that the first carcass or the first suspicious thing. And then our unit visits this location, and with the local search, usually there's a lot more evidence is being revealed. So a general example is like a ranger is finding a buzzard with really strange symptoms, like which gives a hint that there is some poisoning could be there. So, and then our unit goes there and they find a lot more of these carcasses, and in some cases also the baits are being found. So they really increase the chance of finding these hidden carcasses and also the baits.
Okay, great. Okay, one more question. how did you succeed to confirm that the evidence found by the dogs in the field 1.5 months after poaching happened belonged actually to the wolf carcasses?
Sorry, can you just?
You mentioned a case of a wolf carcass, and it had been dead for a while. And was there a poison involved too, or did the dogs just find?
No, it was shooting. For both cases, it was shooting. So there weren't any poisoning large carnivores, according to our experiment. Also, I have to mention that Hungary is, so the predators, the large carnivores in Hungary are kind of newcomers. So we don't have a population as Norway or other countries. Also in like 2013, it was really the beginning of when this wolf population appeared in the Book Mountains. And later, of course, nowadays we have like a lot bigger wolf population, but still tiny compared to other countries. So we are not, these two cases were really kind of a big number compared to the local population, but they are still scarce.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Thank you very much for your presentation and for answering so many questions. For all of you, you will have the chance to discuss a bit more with Martin about prosecution, because he will host one of the breakout rooms together with our colleague Laszlo from WWF Hungary later this afternoon. But for now, we will have a short coffee break. Please be back at 11 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, we will hear from David from Spain about wildlife crime on the Iberian Peninsula. So we'll meet you here again at 11 o'clock.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a nice break. Bye. to have this workshop already last year, at the beginning of last year in Italy, but you all knew what happened then. So I'm really happy we at least managed to have it in a virtual format. So welcome back from the break, and we will move to our next speaker. We now listen to David de la Bodega from SEO, which is BirdLife Spain. David is head of the legal program at SEO, and he will talk about SEO's initiative Guardianes de la Naturaleza, which basically means gardens of nature. And he will tell us how their activities aim to improve efficiency and effectiveness of combating wildlife crime in Portugal and Spain. David, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank you for the invitation to this workshop. And I will be delighted to share with you the main actions that we are developing under these LIFE projects, the Nature Guardians projects, the LIFE projects, and other initiatives that have been implemented by SEO BirdLife, my organization, against illegal killing of birds and fauna in general. I will share my screen. This is one. Oh. Okay. Can you see my presentation? Okay. So
yes, perfect.
Just well, I'm represent SEO BirdLife. SEO BirdLife is the Spanish BirdLife partner of BirdLife International. We are the oldest conservation charity in Spain, and we have a very large implementation across Spain, and we have a very good communication and collaboration with the rest of partners at BirdLife International or other countries. As it has been said during this morning, illegal killing of fauna is a global problem. It's not a question of the Iberian Peninsula, but it's a global problem. This is the figures of illegal killing of birds only in the Mediterranean and Europe. And then the figures are really huge. I mean, we are talking on, this is a report, a paper published by BirdLife International with the collaboration of several other partners. And you can see that around 25 million of birds are illegally killed in the Mediterranean, only the Mediterranean and Europe. The origin and the cases and the triggers of this illegal killing is a variety of illegal actions, poisoning, shooting, and many other causes. As I say, the figures are incredible. So it's not a question only of not. It's a question that is also occurring in the European countries. So we can talk on the figures on Italy. That has been said this morning by Carabinieri representative, but it's also a problem in France, in Croatia, in Greece. So many countries in the European Union are affected by this conservation problem, because it's not only legal action, but it's also a conservation problem with this height of figures. Well, just talking only on poisoning, as my colleagues have said, it's also a problem of conservation for many raptors. This is the maps of report made by BirdLife on the impact of poisoning in Europe. As you have seen, say, it's a problem in the most of the European countries for the use of poisoning. But if we talk, poisoning is the most widely used predator eradication method worldwide. We are not talking only on Europe, on the Mediterranean. It's across the rest of the world. And for example, if we talk on Spain, this is the figures of poisoning. As you can see, from the last 25 years, 21,000 of animals has been collected, has been poisoned. This is only the top of the iceberg, because this is only the animals that has been found. I mean, has been found, has been sent to a recovery sentence, and the analysis has been done. We estimate that this is only the 10 or 15% of the total animal that has been poisoned in Spain in the last 5 years. So, but there is some but many actions that has been implemented in Spain during the last years, and the result of these efforts made by NGOs, administrations, have made the numbers decrease in the last 10 years. So this is for me a clear picture of how the investment on investigation of this kind of crime, this is an example, the poisoning is an example of a wildlife crime, but the effort made by the authorities and private sector fighting this crime have led this decrease on the number of the poisoning cases, and the recovery of many species that has been affected by poisoning. So, what is the role of an NGO in fighting wildlife crime, as is WWF doing? One of them is the preventing and refining knowledge of environmental crime impact. So if we talk, for example, on poisoning, that is the case I saw you in the last slide. We can say that in Spain, for the beginning, 40 years ago, nobody cared about poisoning, neither the administrations or the police or wherever. So only the NGOs were analyzing the problem, just disseminating the scientific report on the consequence of poisoning and so on. So disseminating the consequence of wildlife crimes and raising awareness of the problem is other role of NGOs that, for example, in the case, as I told you, in Spain, have pushed the authorities to rise, to prioritize the fight against this problem. Also, ensuring the application of the law is other role played by NGOs. The political lobbying. So we have, as I told you, the role of NGOs in convincing the authorities to prioritize the problem, to take legal actions, to adopt national action plans, regional action plans, to regulate under the law the consequence of the problem, and also to reduce protocols for law enforcement agents has been launched by NGOs to better, for example, prosecute this kind of cases. All these roles has been playing by NGOs, as is WWF in the last years. SEO has coordinated some live projects for tackling this problem of illegal killing of fauna, and we are currently coordinating the Nature Guardians against environmental crime. We are not only tackling the problem of illegal killing of birds or fauna, but all kind of environmental crimes. So all the measures that we are trying to implement are against all kinds of environmental crime. This live project is based on other live projects coordinated by WWF 8 years ago. It was the LIFE Veneno project, focused on in this case on poisoning. This project was aware as one of the best life nature projects, because we implement several measures not only in Spain but also in Portugal and at international level, because some of these actions were adopted by some international fora, and I think it was really an important project. So, and basis on many actions implemented under these projects, we propose this Nature Guardians projects. The Nature Guardians Life projects have these objectives and scope. Increase the exchange of experience and best practices against environmental crimes. Well, the main goal is improve the efficiency and effectiveness of actions aimed at combating environmental crimes in Portugal and in Spain, but we have also actions to be implemented in other EU countries, for example, in Germany, in Hungary, in Greece, and other countries. So we are now working on actions that we consider that should be implemented not only in Spain but in other EU countries. So, and we are working on that. So other objectives of the program is ensure and strengthen the adequate enforcement of environmental law, prevent environmental crime, raise awareness and promote cultural changes, improve the conservation status of this species and habitat. This is, for me, is an objective and also a consequence of implementing all the actions that I will tell to you in the next slides. Reduce the impunity of commission of crimes. This is also an objective and a consequence of the implementation of the actions, and increase the knowledge about the dimension of environmental crime. And going through these objectives, taking on chains of experience and best practice, we are very proud of our national police. So because they have made a very good road during the last years to specialized units to really improve their knowledge and ways of working in the field. So we can say that they are the responsible for this decrease in the number of illegal killing or the wildlife crimes. So, and we thought that it would be really good to spread this experience at other experience around the world or in the European Union to other countries that are beginning to fight this kind of crimes, so just to raise awareness of other national authorities on the importance to invest on this kind of environmental police and to a better police corps to fight against wildlife crimes. So for that reason, we organized jointly with Europol and El Pacto. There is a project supported by the European Union in Latin America to fight against wildlife crime and mainly the illegal trafficking of wildlife. And jointly with Frontex, the EU Forum of Justice for Environment, Impel, and the DMV, we organized a European workshop on police investigations last year, just in the previous days of this big pandemic, and to reflect on environmental crimes. Some recommendations and conclusions were issued on gathering information and statistics. For example, the importance to collect all the information on environmental crimes is essential to have a real picture of what environmental crime is impacting in the environment and in wildlife is essential. we also discuss on the regulatory framework for environmental investigation. So in what measure the legal framework is permitting the environmental investigation or not, where is the limit for a better investigation according to the regulatory framework, application of new technologies and financial research in the investigation of environmental crimes, what means are necessary to guarantee the effectiveness of the police actions. So we discuss on the minimum that national police should implement, or where's the means that police should implement to a better investigation of this kind of crimes. The application of protocols and instructions for police investigations. So in Spain, for example, there are several protocols for the police, several police, not only the Guardia Civil, the Seprona, that is one of the main corps, but we have also environmental rangers in Spain, because we have 6,000 environmental rangers in Spain. So they use protocols and instructions that has been really useful for the investigation of these crimes. And we discuss on the opportunity to have this kind of protocols around the European Union and to be implemented by the different countries. And also the importance of cooperation and collaboration between entities, between NGOs, between authorities, between police, and between all of them, where are the opportunities and the risks of this cooperation between entities. So all these items were discussed during this workshop, and recommendations were issued. So there is a report available in the website of the project that I will tell you later. So, and it is a really useful document to go further in the investigation of this kind of crimes in Europe. Further action that we are organizing under these objectives is an international manual on police investigation of wildlife crimes. So, one of the beneficiaries of this project is the Junta de Andalucía, the regional government of Andalucía. They have a large experience in investigation in the investigation of wildlife crimes, and they have produced several manuals on investigation of these crimes. And we are now working with them to develop this international manual that we intend to share with all the police around Europe and internationally, because we think that they have a very useful contents just to help other police and to spread this experience to other contexts and countries. We are also working in a sentencing guidance on wildlife crimes. So this is mainly for the Spanish and Portuguese judges and prosecutors. So we will try to discuss and to provide some information on the regulatory frameworks of wildlife crime. What are the consequences of wildlife crime? Because sometimes judges or prosecutors are not really aware of the impact of wildlife crimes, and what important is the prosecution of this kind of crimes. Other objectives and actions that we are implementing under this Nature Guardians project is to ensure adequate compliance and enforcement of environmental law. I mean, prosecuting of the crime is essential for the reduction of this crime. BirdLife and SPEA are taking part in criminal proceeding. SEO is currently taking part in criminal proceeding by mainly wildlife crime, but other kind of environmental crimes. In total, in the last 10 years, BirdLife has been party in 28 criminal proceedings, or some of them are still running in this moment. SPEA is also bringing some cases to court, And this is, I think, that is one of the most important role of NGOs, at least in Spain, regarding environmental crime. So because we are taking part in these criminal proceedings with, or just providing technical information. We are taking part with our own lawyers, so we also provide with we provide with information, with legal information and documents to the process. So we just taking part in this processing, we have obtained 40 convictions on wildlife crimes. Some of them are the most important conviction in Spain by a wildlife crime. For example, we have a case in Ciudad Real by the poisoning of 6 imperial eagle, where a farmer was convicted to 2 years of jail and the payment of 360,000 euros of civil liability by the poisoning of this imperial eagle. So this is a very important conviction. But there are other ones around Spain that has been pushed the perpetrators and in raise awareness of the circles of these perpetrators, of the consequence of law. So reduce the impunity by obtaining this conviction is for us an essential actions for combating wildlife crimes. Some other subjects where we were taking part is poisoning, illegal killing, but also corruption. Sometimes corruption is detected by the police, so we have been taking part in 2 processes by corruptions. Habitat extrusions, illegal wasting are also some of the actions that we have been taking. But we also think that it's important to involve citizens to report environmental crimes. So for that reason, we have put we have an environmental reporting webs it's a web form that where you can report to Sea Over Life any kind of illegal actions against wildlife crimes. So we prevent also environmental crimes and raise awareness. As I told you, this is the website of our projects. It's guardianes.co.org, and I think I invite you to go through this website, because you will find it's available in English, so you will find some of the documents that I sent you. Just talking on our rights awareness, for example, we have open a permanent exhibition at the Spanish Museum of Nature Science, just focusing on our Article 45 of the Spanish Constitution, because this article is one of the few articles included in the constitutions that raise the importance of the conservation of environment and cover the right to an healthy environment. So, and we have produced a space in this museum where 30,000 people visit during the year. So I would think that this is really a really good opportunity just to spread the importance of the conservation of nature and the fighting against these kind of crimes. Another important actions to reduce impunity and increase the determination of criminal responsibility, that is linked to the other objectives as I told you before, is the training of law enforcement officials. Sea Over Life has a very long experience in training these enforcement officials. We have trained under the project more than 1,000 and 100 law enforcement officials. Has been possible because the online training, because one of this pandemic have give us is we have lost the opportunity to make face-to-face training courses. That's the picture on the left is on the right, sorry, is the last course that we could do face-to-face, but we are now discovering this online training that permit us just to go and to arrive to more law enforcement officials and to spread to more people the knowledge of that we teach with these courses. So other courses to Guardia Civil. So many courses has been provided by under the projects. But we also providing training for other professionals, mainly for legal professionals, lawyers, judges, prosecutors. And the last course that we have provided is on the origin and motivation of environmental crime. That it was also followed by 100 people. Other important action is to introducing the impunity is just to enforce and to improve the environmental unit in the Guardia Civil. It was created under the project Central Environmental Intelligence Unit. We think that this is a step forward in the investigation of this kind of crime because previously the SEPRONA, this is environmental police, their action was mainly the reactions from environmental crime. But this is this Central Environmental Intelligence Unit wants to create intelligence, wants to analyze the situations, wants to support technically all the units in the field. And I think is they would like to be as other police units, that is the terrorism unit fighting against terrorism, the units fighting against financial crimes. So this is I think it's a very important step just to make environment a priority under this police, and to just to use the same measures and methodologies that is being used in other units. Well, the project will have provide with means for investigations with drones, cameras. They have several materials of investigations that has been now analyzing in the field just to produce some reports on the results of the implementation of this kind of measures. And many police operations has been done under the projects, for example, on illegal trafficking, but also electrocutions of the illegal taking of water in protected areas, as is Doñana in the south of Spain.
Sorry, David, to interrupt. We have about 3 minutes left for your slot.
Okay, so I run. This is, I think, well, and I also other important objective is the increase of knowledge on environmental crimes. We have produced several reports on, for example, the implementation of the directive, the eco-penal directive in Spain and Portugal. An important report on the valuation of the economic impact of wildlife crime. So this is an important report because we provide with a methodology for the evaluation of fauna affected by wildlife crimes. I think it's really important because, as I told you, for the payment of the legal of the civil liability has been essential for the deterrence of in terms of deterrence in Spain, and I think to have a good methodology to evaluate the wildlife affected by wildlife crime is an essential method. We also produce a report on the motivation and motivation of environmental crimes. Some of the conclusions, for example, is that in Spain and in Portugal, when we are talking on wildlife crimes, in general, the perpetrator is a man, is 42 years age, and he is mainly connected by the countryside. Other future action that we are developing is the environmental crime database in Spain and Portugal. We are working on a methodology for the recovery, for gathering the information on wildlife crimes, and we will implement a database in Spain and Portugal just to recover this information. As I told you, we thought that this is essential to have a real picture of what's happening in the countryside. One, just very fast, this is other initiative that we have developed in Silver Life, the creation of a European network against environmental crime that was created to join all the lawyers working on for the different BirdLife partners. We published some recommendations to eliminate illegal killing of birds. We also proposed a wildlife poisoning action plan that was included in the EU roadmap towards eliminating illegal killing, trapping, and trade of birds of the Commission, of the European Commission, that was developed by different EU member states, EMP, the EU Forum for Justice for Environment, FACE, or representative for the CMS, the Convention of Migratory Species. We also conduct a study on the implementation of the Directive 2008/99, is the Eco-Penal Directive in the European Union, that give us, for example, these conclusions on what's the different measures taken in Europe regarding, for example, a wildlife crime. This is the pictures of the different colors and sanctions that are currently implementing in the European Union by a wildlife crime. So, as you can see, the sanction differed. There is not a harmony on the implementation of this directive in the European Union, and the consequence of a wildlife crime is not the same in all the EU countries. So, and this is something that we are currently working because this directive is now in a process of reviewing, and we are working on this process. And this is all. As I told you before, I invite you just to consult this Guardian's website, and this is my contact in case you would like to have other comments or questions about what I have to tell you.
Thank you very much, David. Thanks a lot. I'm really impressed by the shocking figures you presented on the extent of bird crime, but also on the extent of your work. I mean, there are so many things you are involved in, and I can hear from the Q&A section that a lot of people are interested in the reports you mentioned, also in the manual on police investigation of wildlife crime and sentencing guidance. So whenever that comes out, I would be interested to know. Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions in the audience right now, but maybe you can check the questions box and answer some of the questions. And please share the documents with us, the ones that are already final. And we will make sure to share this information also in the workshop report. So thank you very much, David.
Thank you.
We will move on now to the next one, to the next talk. Just for all of you, I know it's a bit impersonal in these Zoom webinars because you cannot see how many participants are there, who is there. So just to let you know, we are still 250 participants and panelists here joining this talk. This is great. It's great to see so much interest on this topic. And I would like to give the floor to Thomas Börke and Jan-Erik Häggeroth from Kungsörn, Sweden. Kungsörn means golden eagle, and Kungsörn Sverige is a NGO that wants to protect the golden eagle in Sweden. And they will tell us about their work on successful cooperation between NGOs and the Swedish, Finnish, and British police and customs authorities in fighting bird crime. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Do you hear us?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, good.
From the northern part of Sweden.
Yeah, I shall see if I got the presentation up here. We are working with Golden Eagle and our bird watchers, both Jan-Erik and I, and we have been involved with the police in some cases with egg collection. We thought this was something that disappeared 1950 or something, but obviously it didn't. So this is when we visiting England for some years ago.
Thomas, you can also hit start presentation on the right, so we can see the. But if it's okay like this, we can see it.
Okay, I didn't find the button now. Perhaps okay. You can see. Okay. Is it this one, perhaps?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, good. The start for us was this photo that come through Interpol from London to the Swedish police.
It's called Old Photos 256.
Yeah, and we was involved in this case. Then when lots of photos arrived from England, and this is a nest of gyrfalcon that we found out after speaking with other ornithologists, and it was the start of this journey with the egg collection cases. And we can say that the beginning was in Great Britain when 3 egg collectors, 2 from Scotland and 1 from England, were taken by the police. It was from February to June,
I think so.
2009. And all these 3 persons, these 3 men, had approximately 7,000 eggs in their collections. One of them have more than 10,000 eggs. So they had a big case there, and it was a result. These police raid, because of the cooperation between the National Wildlife Crime Unit at the police in Great Britain and RSPB, who have an Operation Easter, they call it. They go out with information to people, to the community, to be aware that now it's soon Easter and birds are laying eggs. So beware of that persons can be interested in picking these eggs. And Guy Sharrock at the picture is a senior investigator at the RSPB. They have a unit there for bird crime. And this castle in Scotland it's from here the photos come about the GER falcon and other photos. The owner of this castle had with 50 rooms, more than 50 rooms in Scotland, had a big egg collection, and the police raided the house, the castle, in June 2009. And there were lots of eggs. It's more than 10,000 eggs in. It was a whole floor at the top of this castle.
A lot of rooms.
A lot of rooms, and it was eggs, and it was stuffed birds and things all over this floor. Different rooms, and these 2 clutches of common crane was also a start of it, because they had arrived in a parcel, these 2 clutches of cranes, only 1 week before the house search at the castle, and it comes from a man in Sweden. And when we looked at this, we found that these eggs, these clutches, were picked in Sweden in 2002 and 2003 in bogs in northern Sweden. But this man, this lord of this castle, he was told from the Swedish man that these eggs were bought in USA from captive birds, and they were not fertile eggs. But that was not correct.
A big lie.
Yeah, a big lie. And here you can see how we identified the eggs with these dotches on the eggs from nature and from earlier collections in Sweden to have arrived in Scotland. It's quite tricky, but after a while you get good at this. And also in the old photos that come through from Interpol to Swedish police, there were persons, 3 persons we can identify. Here they are taking photos. Taking
out in nature in the Swedish mountain.
Yeah, they are taking photos of clutches.
When they are collecting eggs.
Yeah, nests. And we could identify this man. And this picture of this waterfall also come from Scotland. And this place we could identify. It's easy to identify this place. And it's quite near where the nest of the GER falcon is. So we also found the places in Sweden where these persons have cleaned the nature from eggs.
Called Stekenjokk.
Yeah, it's called Stekenjokk. It's in the middle of the Swedish mountain and quite close to the Norwegian border. So they have operated in this area, these Swedes. And then it was made house searches in Sweden, 2010 and 2011, at least 3 men, and totally were found 6,600 eggs in this Swedish egg collectors' houses. And here you see some of the boxes with eggs.
Another boxes with eagles and falcons, especially falcons, Huron and Pilgrim falcons. And up to the right, you have white-tailed eagle and a golden eagle.
Yeah, this one. Golden eagle, white-tailed eagle, and falcon.
They have everything.
Eggs. So lots of CITES listed birds. Some interesting details about a kind of investigation like this. When the police did the house search in one house, they found hidden rooms. Behind these clothes, there was a door, and inside a room. And there the police found the egg collection. I found cameras, photos, maps, documentation of where they have picked eggs, and GPS, and lots of things that you can use to investigate a case like this. This was another thing. We found lots of labels in the collections due to each species in the collection, and many of them were false, so to say, that they were backdated. Here is a photos of an eagle owl nest with 2 eggs, and here you can see the eggs, and the label says that it is picked 1958, 23rd of April, but the forensic information in the photo is from 23rd of April 2008, so it's 50 years backdated. And this is what you can do if you want to hide that it is newly picked eggs.
Another label about the barnacle goose is not nesting in Finland that year in 1960. They starting nesting in early 90s.
Yeah.
So there was everything was wrong with this label.
Yeah, and because of that, it is also a false label because of it's stated wrong. So, and the place in Finland, in a mobile phone, they find a person living in that village. And the Finnish custom in 2011, in October, made a house search, and they found an apartment in a greenhouse in Finland.
Very special.
Yeah, and in this apartment, they found what they were searching for, namely more than 10,000 eggs in this flat in the greenhouse. So the information from the Swedish police to the Finnish custom was correct. This is another egg collector which had connection to the Swedish ones. And
this guy was 28 years old.
Yeah, at the time. So we can sum up a bit what we have seen.
The last years.
Yeah, the last years during these.
You can.
I can. During this work with egg collectors, that it's not only egg collecting. There could be other fauna crimes involved too. But there have been over 39,000 eggs that we have seen is picked. Both newly picked and older eggs from earlier. It was forbidden in Sweden 1947, for example, and it is forbidden to pick eggs in the most European countries and the most countries in the world. But we also found shut birds in freezers and stuffed birds at these persons. Also connection to animal conservators and taxidermists. The contact net with persons, these egg collectors, also included the cage bird industry, hobbyists, and also persons at natural museums in different countries. And also there were eggs from bird farms and breeders involved in this, and also we found that it was a worldwide connection. It was many persons in a network dealing with eggs, collecting, swapping eggs with each other, selling, buying. And here is the contact net in this case. In this case, with the persons from Scotland, England, Finland, and Sweden. We have two other places. Australia and India also was involved and should be green marked here. But from these places, from these countries, eggs have been sent between persons. And we found crane eggs from Far East Russia, from India, from USA, in Scandinavian collections. For example, South Africa also. So the contact net is quite big, much bigger than we thought when we started this. We shall say a little bit about the penalty also. Totally, it was 15 men. Who are no woman, only men, egg collectors. But often there were older men. The worst age is 60 years to 80 years persons who have been egg collectors, and an active one. 14 of them get penalty, and one case was closed down. 2 of them get prison, 6 months and 12 months after court. And the other one get an economic fine. And that's interesting to see the difference between the fines from different countries. In Finland, there are much higher fines than, for example, in Sweden and UK. And it depends on the Finnish natural law, which have a price list.
This is really good.
Yeah, to the state. So if you're killing animals and birds and disturb them on nesting site or destroy their habitats, if you are punished in a court, you have to pay tax to the state of the value of the species from the red list. So, for example, if you have eggs from golden eagle, you have to pay to the state 4,877 euro, or common crane 1,009 euro, or a willow warbler 17 euro. So every species, both plants and animals, have a price in Finland. So it's added to the fine you got in court. And this is the last picture.
Yeah. This is the team we work with.
Yeah, this is the joint investigation team between Sweden and Finland, and it includes prosecutors, police, custom, NGOs, and authorities. So this is the team that worked with the Swedish-Finnish case, and the factors that are successful is cooperation between authorities, between police, between custom in the EU countries. For this example, from Great Britain, from Finland and Sweden, and to involve ornithological experts in these cases, because the police haven't this information and can
understand what's happening.
Yeah, it's a special talk they have. Yeah. They write to each other on a special way, and to identify eggs from nature, to see that they are the same eggs in the collection, so that they really are taken from nature. Joint investigation teams are very important when we work together, visiting each other, help each other in the cases. And also it's important to have different skills, that the persons in a team have different skills. For example, some perhaps is very good at seeing small details on dodges on eggs and find out that they are taken from nature, to think very broad outside the box, and also have quite a lot of fantasy to think, to follow the instinct and think and find out things even if they are unthinkable. So that's one way to get success in these cases. Okay, that's the presentation
from us.
Thanks you very much, and thanks for have been talking at this conference.
Thank you very much, Thomas and Jan Erik, for this presentation and for the shocking footage. I have the feeling most of us weren't even aware that egg collection is such a big hobby and what extent it has. So actually, this is one question also or some of these questions are related to that. Can you say a bit more about the motivation? Why do people actually collect these eggs? Is it even an obsessive behavior? Is it just a hobby, or what are they doing with these eggs?
We think that it's obsessive. It is something you shall have all the birds that are nesting in your country, for example, in a collection. So it's very obsessive. We haven't found so much economical value about this. It's more than you have to have a full hand and you have to have full clutches of different species. So it is an obsessive behavior, we think. That's our opinion.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so also.
So there's no black market or something for these eggs. They are not.
It sure can be, because there can be money in this also. The man in the castle in Scotland, for example, was billionaire. Yeah, so he had economical resources, of course, to buy things, but we haven't found so much in it. It's more that it is a hobby, and you should, and the more rare a bird is, the more interesting it is to get a clutch of that bird also, that species also.
Okay. Are there any precautions that can be taken to prevent such a high numbers of stolen eggs? Like, are you working in the field also to prevent these stealing? Are rangers a way to protect the nests, or what are your experiences in that? With
the experience is first to inform that this is really going on, because every bird watcher in Sweden disappeared in 1950s. So information, and it has been campaigns also, and someone called Open Eye that the police and authorities gave out from some years ago, with information to special places where there could be interesting birds, that be aware, look after if there are persons behaving very strange, for example. And also in this Stekenjokk area, there have been nature protection and forbidden to walk during the
closed areas.
Yeah, closed areas when they are having their eggs. When the birds have laid eggs in the nests, so you can't walk around. And also protection. Police has been patrolling the area, and nature guards.
In what day after laying the eggs are they picked from the nest? Does that matter to the collectors, to the criminals, or is it just about the eggs?
They want them for 1 or 2, 4, 5 days in the early in the nesting period, but they also can take egg in the later around, because they have medical material.
It's much about how much the embryo has developed. If it has developed very much, they can also take eggs like that, but then you have to prepare it so that you take away the skeleton and things in the egg, but it is harder to drill and to take out.
Okay, another question combined with some feedback to your presentation. Thank you very much. You're a real inspiration. I have to agree. What were the main means by which you found the links to all these other countries involved? Like, how did you make the connections to the other countries? Emails, social media, networks? How did you build these networks?
Yeah, it's when you get one computer or one person, one house search, you find addresses in telephones, you find SMS, emails, letters. So that's the way you find connections. You see that there are persons very much involved, and they also discuss things over SMS. And if they use Latin names of birds, for example, or short names for birds that the police don't really know what it is, we saw that it was this must have something with birds to do. So that's the way you can find other egg collectors.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for this presentation and for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best to you. Thank you for your work. All the best. And to all of you out there, we will break now for lunch. please be back at 12:30, and we still have two very interesting presentations after lunch on pilot toolkits in observing environmental crime, on smart techniques, and on data collection, and on a new LIFE project that wants to improve prosecution on wildlife crime. And then we have the breakout sessions. So please be back at 12:30 and have a nice lunch break.
Πέτρο, μιλάω, τώρα έχω ομιλία. Γεια.
Welcome back, everyone, from the break. I hope you had some time to stretch your legs, get some food, some drinks, and so you're ready now for the second part of our workshop, which is also shorter than the first part. We have two more interesting presentations now. And after that, the possibility for each of you to join one of three breakout sessions for some more discussions and networking. But now I would like to give the floor to Michalis Probonas from the Natural History Museum of Crete and the University of Crete. He's responsible for the Laboratory of Ecology and Environmental Management. And Michalis has been involved in a number of LIFE projects. I don't know how many, but quite a few, I know. Some of them that focus on the protection of vultures, also on Greek caves and bats. And to my knowledge, the most recent one is the LIFE Asempsis, and that's the one he will also talk about today. And he will let us know what the environmental law observatories in Crete have achieved, and the results of the LIFE projects and their communication strategy, and how they have involved stakeholders in Crete. So Michalis, thanks for being with us here today, and the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning to everyone. I believe that you can see now the presentation. Yes.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the invitation. I've seen that you have read a lot about myself, and so of course I am involved in many projects, LIFE and non-LIFE projects for the last 2 decades, I believe. But anyway, now the project that I will present is the LIFE Natura Themis project. I will remain in some, let's say, pilot toolkits that we have for observing environmental crime and environmental laws implementation within the framework of this LIFE project. Just to give some details, few details about the project. It's located in Crete, an island of Greece in the south part of Greece. You see the budget and also the contribution of the European Union is close to 60%. The duration was 5 years, but due to COVID-19 pandemic, we have a 9 months prolongation. So now this project will end at the end of June this year, 2021. So we are, as a University of Crete and Natural History Museum of Crete, we are the coordinating beneficiary of this project. And we also have on board 2 bar associations. I mean, not coming from the bars, of course, of Crete. We have a lot of bars for amazing, but also we have the lawyers. So we have Chania and Heraklion Lawyers, Association of Lawyers involved, and it's the first time, I believe, in Greece. I don't know if in Europe it's common to have in a LIFE project involved lawyers, their associations. I mean, for Greece, the first time, of course. We also have as beneficiary the Ministry of Environment and Energy, and the office that is responsible for the implementation of the ELD, Environmental Liability Directive in Greece. And also we have an NGO named Hellenic Society for the Protection of Nature. In brief, also the objectives and aims, in also as a way to combine that with the toolkits we have for this, I will present later. We try to inform and raise awareness about environmental and wildlife crime. We also try to inform and raise awareness about environmental liability for preventing and remediating biodiversity damage. I have to say, I forgot before that our project is an environmental governance and information project. Also, we try to change the attitude of stakeholders, target the audience and lay public inquiry about that we need their support and engagement in EU environmental law enforcement, and it's an important tool to protect biodiversity and also support local development and social cohesion. To provide stakeholders and target audiences with appropriate skills for being engaged in effective prosecution procedure regarding wildlife crime, and also to require measures for the remediation of biodiversity damage that comes from the ELD, the Environmental Liability Directive, and also to communicate the importance of the implementation of EU environmental legislation in Natura 2000 areas, because we are focused in Natura 2000 areas of Crete in our project, to other also management site managers in Greece and authorities. The main project actions is the establishment of the two environmental law observatories in east and west part of Crete, respectively, and also aware-raising activities such as workshops, conferences, and application for smart devices. I will speak later on about this application for smart device that we have as a toolkit implement in Crete and pilot area of Crete. We have training seminars for lawyers, judges, prosecutors, and public authorities, investigating agents. Technical guides we have produced, and also we have the project website, and we are trying to be in good connection with local media. So, what is about environmental law observatories? We have two environmental law observatories, innovative structures that were created within the frame of the specific Life Natura Themis project and are being implemented by the two bar associations of Crete. The one is from Chania Bar Association and the other is from the Heraklion Bar Association, one in the west part of Crete and the other the east part of Crete. Started to implement in January 2017 the one in the Heraklion, and in November 2016 the one in Chania. Every 4 months, the team of both environmental law observatories checks and registers all published bills, acts, laws, technical regulations, ministerial or administrative decisions, and public contracts referring to direct or indirect environmental management of the Natura 2000 protected areas of Crete. In addition, they do an analysis and compilation of cases already registered. This takes place also, and they have contacts with stakeholders, targeted audience, and local community on permanent basis. The databases with the registered environmental cases that both environmental law observatories collect is connected with the official website of the project, in where they are presented in a geo-information map. I will show some images later on. So this map shows the prosecuting cases for wildlife crimes that are taking place within the Natura 2000 protected areas of Crete. And we have to mention that the marking of sites is done approximately because we have restrictions, as you all know, in all Europe countries with the General Data Protection Regulation a few years ago. So we have, let's say, kind of problems, if I can say that, in order to make approximate this geo-information in the map, because they will probably be allocated with a person, and this is or a company, and this is not good to happen under the GDPR regulation. So, in order to ensure that the confidentiality and protection of perpetrators' personal data, a permit has been obtained from the competent Personal Data Protection Authority. In order to get this information from the courts and other authorities of Crete, because we speak for Crete, we have to take a special permit from the competent authority in Greece that is responsible with the GDPR. So this was taken by our lawyers and the persons that are working in the environmental law observatories of Crete. And also the information that we get is also kept in written form at the premises of the University of Crete. The environmental crimes and violations are posted without reference to the accused or perpetrator, because we have to follow the review of criminal records of pre-investigation services and court decisions. So you see here how is the image in our website, www.lifethemis.eu is our website. It's also in Greek and in English, so you can find this information, the environmental crime map, as you see here. We have a lot of places which are in red, are the hotspots, let's say, of environmental crimes in the island of Crete. Here is Chania, here is Heraklion, where is located the two environmental law observatories. We have also cases, and we can also have some information filters in order to have some information, especially in a place of a region, of the whole region, or from the prefectural unity. We have also the type of crime, we have also the year, and we can combine these filters in order to get some more information about what we are interested in, depending on the crime, depending on the area, depending on the place, the year, etc. It is believed that the information map opens a new era in the field of prosecution, prevention, and repression of, let's say, green crime, since it may assist in the better planning of environmental auditing. We can have also qualitative and quantitative assessment of green crime. We can predict, let's say, in a way, the green crime, the commission of green crimes, of other green crimes. And we can also have interdepartmental cooperation in law enforcement, and also to synthesize the local communities for the effective case prosecution. Especially if this is combined with what I will show you later about this application for smart devices, the Life Themis application, will generally seems to coincide in terms of the characterization of the crime hotspots. It will multiply the effectiveness of preventing and suppressing environmental crimes and or violations. You have in the upper side here, we have from the J information map in our website. And also we have here what is from the complaints, anonymous complaints that comes through the application for smart devices that we have implemented in the framework of our project. So we can see that we can have more or less the same areas and the same places where we can allocate also wildlife crime through the environmental law observatories investigation. So the next issue that I would like to discuss is about this application for smart devices. That's for mobiles, tablets, etc. It was created for facilitating citizens to report an environmental crime. Why to do that? For three basic reasons. Because people don't like, I believe it's the same, at least in the countries of South Europe, also in Greece and probably Italy, Spain, people, they don't want to make such kind of reports because fear of retaliation or being targeted or for targeting if they make a personal complaint, because they have to say their name and so they can call them later in court, or they say that this is the man that mentioned this kind of crime. Also, it's money and time spent for the complaint if you do that in person and without this application, which is anonymous. And also the involvement, they don't like to be involved with authorities, police, and or courts later on. So the applications give citizens to report an environmental crime anonymously without a name, in real time, and with all necessary details, meaning exact place of the crime, we can use the device's georeference system, which is mandatory, and also they can give some evidence with photographs, that's mandatory, or text, that's optional. So the smart device application, we have function this device since August 2017. We have more than 550 users, both Android and iOS. We have received more than 2,050 reports so far, and 176 reports were valid and forwarded to competent authorities. 26 cases have been successfully dealt with and the damage was restored, and a fine of 2,000 euros, a small amount of money, but let's say we can say that this is one fine to be imposed in one of those reports, And also in 2 reports, the cases reached the courts or the perpetrator was identified. We have some invalid reports, mainly from this region. I don't want to be in depth, but we have some probably inaccuracy of depicting a crime, or it was intent to deceive, but it's quite easy through this application to find who would like to cheat or not, or if it's not a crime, or if it's outside the area that we are liking to be focused. This is, you can see the QR code for Android and for iOS, so you can have this application either for Android devices and also for iOS devices. It's quite simple. It's available in Greek and in English because we have a lot of tourists in Crete, and not only I mean, but it's good that it's in English too. I told you that it's compatible with Android iOS. We have the memory space that needs for its installation is quite low, 4.2 megabytes. The interface that you can see in the photographs here is quite friendly users interface, and it's also availability for offline report if internet connection is not available. So initially the georeference system of the user's device needs to be activated. We have to follow the instruction. The user takes some photo of the problem. Up to 4 photos is the maximum availability. They can also, the user can write a relevant comment or text with possible keywords that briefly describe this violation, and the user sends his message automatically. When there is no internet access, as I told you before, then the application saves the complaint on the device, and the sending is completed automatically when there is an internet connection. The georeference of the violation point is done automatically by the position system of the user devices. So there is also a map supported, the application is supported with a server where each complaint is registered automatically in a database. We can, on a separate website, we have a visible site and an administration panel, which is not open to public. We can handle these complaints. I will be running a little bit because I believe my 15 or 20 minutes probably quite coming to an end. We have administrators on this application. During the years of the project, the Hellenic Society for the Protection of Nature, which is a national level NGO, took this application, make also the function through an external assistant, and also try to keep this information and handle this application. Later on, the first thought was to give it to the public authorities, and especially to the Ministry of Environment and Energy. We will see at the end of this project in the coming months who will take this application for the future, or for being expanded in the whole of Greece, probably. So there are a lot of advantages for this application to take it in by the state authorities. They can save money and manpower that needed. The effectiveness of the prosecution can be improved, and also potential offenders, we see that in other cases will be more reluctant to commit an offense if they know that someone can record them and trigger prosecution immediately. So you can save a lot of time and money if there is, let's say, a combination of efforts with different competent authorities. It's quite difficult, but it can be done, I believe, at a later stage, not in the project, but probably in the afterlife of the project. We can have some better results because during this project we try to implement it on a pilot basis, and also to train and to force to educate people from the competent authorities in this field of environmental law, environmental liability, and wildlife crime. So thank you for your attention. I believe that probably you can ask some questions here or later on, or here is my email that I can give later on some information, if not achieved during the next couple of minutes or 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michalis, for presenting your work and offering this legal perspective to the workshop. Very interesting, I think. For those of you who are newly joining our workshop, feel free to ask questions through the Q&A section on your navigation bar. You find it on the bottom of your screen. There are some questions coming in. Michalis, what is the most common type of report that you have received through the app? And which reported crime was the most severe? And I would add, are you happy with the amounts of reports that you are getting through the app? Or were you expecting to get even more reports?
Yes, I believe that the most common, let's say, wildlife crime that we have, not only in Natura 2000 sites, but also outside the Natura 2000 sites, is waste and the disposal of waste, the illegal disposal of waste all over Crete, let's say, and also in Natura 2000 sites, rubbish outside the bins, and I believe mainly waste is the most common. So if we are, let's say, if we are keen of the results we have after the 3 years of operation, more or less 3 years, 3.5 years of the operation of this application for smart devices, yes, because people are not very well involved in citizen science. Let's say, if I can say that this application belongs to this citizen science. So also we have more or less more than 250 complaints received. Most of them are quite good, and we can proceed. But the disappointing part of this is that the competent authorities don't reply, or reply that this is not their involvement. We have to involve another department, and so it's quite a complication. Who is responsible of what in Greece and in other countries, I believe, not only in Greece.
Okay. Another question. I can imagine that complaint validation is quite labor intensive. Can you estimate how much handling time you need to calculate per case validation? Like, how much work is it if a case is reported? How much work is it to validate it?
Yes, I believe it's less than one person per month to be involved, because we have let's say, make a list of all the competent authorities we would apply for. We have make it through the PC and electronic devices, the whole procedure to be run. So I believe, and also the website we have in its for its report, I believe that it's not much time to evaluate every complaint. It takes about 15 minutes or half an hour to make to see if it's correct, if it's in Natura 2000 side or outside, if they're not cheating and try to confuse us. So it's not take a lot. So in order to prepare all letters and to send them to competent authorities, it takes some time, but it's not because it's electronically done. It's not so much time. The most time is needed to taking the answers, if you receive answers, and to see to keep on charge what's going on with each complaint, but not so much time is needed.
Okay, thank you. I would have another question to you. I was quite impressed by the map application you have that lists all the different crimes, because I think throughout Europe, documentation even of the cases is quite a problem, a challenge. We will hear about data collection in the next talk. And I know, for example, for Germany, that there is no central mapping of wildlife crime cases. And it's really complicated to get even a picture of the extent of wildlife crime. So I'm wondering how complicated was it to set up this map, and what were the main challenges? Was it to obtain the data, or actually to program the map and get it running?
I believe that the easier part is to make the map and to do the electronic things for having the geo map, the geo information map. The most difficult part was to collect all the evidence, because in Greece and especially in Crete, all are kept in manual. I mean, you have to go to court and you have to search through archives of the last 10 years, because we make an effort to collect all evidence for the last 10 years, sorry, from 2010 starting. So it's all manual and you have to investigate by yourself, and there is not a special code for environmental crime or wildlife crime or connected with environment. So for seeing, let's say, thousands of cases and to decide who are environmental crime and how to get information on that. And also we have the GDPR regulation, so it's also difficult to collect all data. It's quite man effort. You need a lot of manpower to do that.
Okay. And another question, from the maps and the smart applications you have developed, are there any templates available that you think would be useful for other countries, for other projects, to use them and adapt them? Or is it something everybody really needs to start from scratch because these situations are so...
No. We're trying through our project, because we have also the applicability and transferability, as you know, those that are implementing LIFE project. We are trying to have, to inform other LIFE project and LIFE project about this application. I believe we have a lot of interest from other projects. We have cooperated with LIFE, BirdLife Malta and other countries. The coronavirus stopped us from visiting other countries and have this information more spread. But I believe we don't have to start from scratch. I believe the technology exists. You can make some minor changes in order to have also other countries, because now we are trying through our replication report. We will provide also the information about this, which will be on our site. Of course, we have some information about this application, and I believe with few changes they can be also implemented in other countries. So it's not, you're not starting from scratch, but you have to make some adaptations. I believe I'm not very keen with technologies, new technologies, but I believe it will be quite easy to have this application also in other countries to be implemented.
Okay, great. Maybe we can include information about that in our report too, so people can see how they can connect with you and make use of your work. One last question. You also mentioned the training seminars. We have heard today that raising awareness among law professionals, among lawyers, attorneys, etc., is quite a challenge. What is your experience with these training seminars? Do you think they work well to raise awareness for environmental crime?
I believe that we have small or not too high participation. Not a lot of people participated in these training seminars we have. So I believe we have a better result through the technical guides that we have produced. And also we tried, because as I told you in the beginning of my lecture, we have also involved the associations of lawyers in Crete. So we have personal contacts with lawyers, judges. It's easier because it's difficult from a university or from an NGO or from whatever to not to talk, to come in contact with judges or prosecutors. So they have a different language, I believe, from scientists or from NGOs or from environmentalists. So I believe the better is face-to-face and through their own colleagues, lawyers, I mean prosecutors. Yes, participation was low, but we have technical guides, we have face-to-face contacts, and also through the technical guides that we have produced, and they are addressed especially to them, given to lawyers, to prosecutors, to judges, and to lay public, of course. But yes, we have better contacts with them.
Okay. Thank you, Michalis. Thank you very much for being here with us, for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
For answering the questions. Thank you. So we will move to the last plenary presentation for today. I'm really happy to announce my colleague from WWF Bulgaria, Rosalina. She will be accompanied by her colleague Teresa today, and they will both talk about the new LIFE Swipe project and mainly on data collection in 11 European countries. Swipe, but I'm sure Rosalina will tell you that stands for Successful Wildlife Crime Prosecution in Europe. And yes, I'm very interested and happy to hear about the project and your work. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm really, really glad to be here. I appreciate that everyone is now getting into the afternoon tiredness. So we promise that we won't keep you very long, and the presentation will be relatively short. So we will split this into two parts. First, I will present you the project as a whole, and then I will hand over to my colleague Teresa Thompson, so she can talk a little bit more about one particular action of the project, which is data collection. So just a second so I can share my screen. Right, so as Moritz kindly introduced me, my name is Rosalina Stoeva, and I sit in WWF Bulgaria. Last year in September, we started a project called SWIPE, standing for Successful Wildlife Crime Prosecution in Europe. So we started it in beginning of September, and this is a 3-year project that runs until end of August 2023. It is a LIFE co-funded project, and we also get financial support from other resources, including national government schemes in some of the project countries. We get support from the US Embassy in Hungary, and you know how these projects work. We have quite a lot of co-funding also provided by the project partners. What's unique in this particular project? So we cover 11 countries, and we are a consortium of 13 partners. So the countries that are covered by the project are Bulgaria, Romania. I'm very sorry that my presentation is having its own opinion, how quickly to go. So the project covers Bulgaria, Romania, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Hungary, Ukraine, Poland, Spain, and Italy. It is led by WWF Bulgaria. We have quite a few WWF offices involved in the consortium, but we have also, outside of the WWF network, we have Flora and Fauna International, and we have two non-WWF partners from Croatia. This is the Judicial Academy Croatia and the State Attorney's Office of the Republic of Croatia. Today we heard about quite a lot of projects that cover wildlife crime. And for me, I think it's very important that I clarify from the very beginning what is considered wildlife crime within the scope of our project, as we saw that wildlife crime can also include environmental crime, illegal logging, and quite a lot of forms of crime. Within the SWIPE project, we cover any form of illegal action directly harming protected species, and which take place within the 11 project countries. Under protected species, we understand species covered by the CITES Convention, the EU Habitats Directive, but only animals, and national laws and regulations. Again, we focus on animal species, but it is up to the partners to decide how wild they'll go on the national scope. So if they want, they can include fungi or other species to cover at national level. So at consortium level, we are quite limited on what we cover. So the scope of illegal actions that are covered by SWIPE, we consider poaching, illegal killing for sport, control of predators, pests and retaliation, illegal catching, illegal collection of eggs, trading, and we've described quite in detail what we mean by trading, non-selective catching and killing that's potentially endangering protected species, and trapping and harming. So not included in the SWIPE scopes are harms to the ecosystem in general, so fires, oil spills, other forms of environmental crime, including waste environmental damages. We don't consider illegal killing of non-protected species or illegal fishing, so for example, or hunting, for example, going to do some fishing without a permit. And when we started preparing the project, so once we decided on what we are going to focus on particularly, then we developed this problem tree, thinking about all the areas where expertise and where there is lack of knowledge, lack of expertise, and there was need for improvement. And from the scheme you can see on the shared screen, there are quite a lot of areas, so it wasn't possible that we focus on so many and we tackle so many issues for a period of 3 years with still limited resources, meaning financial, technical expertise and all that. So we decided that we are going to focus on 3 particular areas, and this is the lack of awareness about all actors, among all actors, about how serious the impact of wildlife crime is. We thought that actually gaps in data availability is quite a large issue, and there was a lack of sharing of data where that was available. So we also chose to focus on this particular area. And the third area where we are working on is the lack of cooperation among national authorities, including in the project countries and cross borders. And based on all that, we prepared a project focusing on these 3 particular issues, and we structured our actions around that, covering, so aiming ultimately to reduce illegally killed European wildlife and supporting the recovery of the threatened European biodiversity. It is very important again that I mentioned that we are not talking about EU but European, because we have 3 non-EU countries being covered by the project scope. So we set ourselves have 3 particular objectives. I'm not going to cover the 4th one that's in the project just because that's simply project management, but the Objective 1 that covers a robust and reliable evidence base on the European wildlife crime in the 11 countries. And then Objective 2 expands to cover the other two main issues, where we actually aim to ensure that we significantly increase awareness, knowledge, and capacity of at least 300 wildlife crime professionals, including prosecutors and experts from law enforcement agencies. And we also work on the communication side, meaning that we'd like to promote engagement among the European citizens, and to break that understanding that wildlife crime is victimless and there is no impact. So working with the general public as well. Quite importantly, quite important for our project is that we actually again considered very carefully who we'd like to work with to maximize the results out of the project. And we thought that, and it was already mentioned during the day, that actually work with prosecution and law enforcement is quite important and yet quite challenging. These are quite challenging target audiences. So our primary target audience is national regional prosecutors, enforcement officials, civil society, experts, national ministry, judges and judicial academies. We also work with policymakers, decision makers, and the general public. Quite important for the project are all the stakeholders that we are going to work to actually implement the planned actions. A few times today, it was mentioned that projects normally build on previous project, and it's a consequence. In our case, we have a 3-year project. So from the very beginning, we are aiming to interlink with already working projects to build on that experience and good practices, and collaborate with as many other key stakeholders at the European level as possible, so we maximize the expected results. So by all means, we already acquired a big consortium, but we are looking to network with as many organizations as possible, and to ensure that we don't work in isolation, but we build on your successes already. And this is actually one of the reasons that from the very beginning, because it's only the first half of the first year since the project started, but we are already quite actively engaging with other organizations in the target countries, but also outside, so we can really benefit from what you've already done and achieved in relation to wildlife crime. So expected results, I'll very quickly go through this part because it's a little bit too much narrative. So our overall expected result is by the end of the project to increase the number of cases proceeding to trial by at least 25%. And this we expect this to happen as a result of improved expertise, interagency work and cross-border cooperation. We hope that at least 50 European actors in the wildlife crime prosecution chain will reaffirm their commitment to strategic cooperation of wildlife crime and its prosecution. We hope that we'll see changes in policies at national and regional and European level. We also going to build experts portal, serving as a one-stop shop for anyone who is an expert or would like to gain quite considerable knowledge on wildlife crime. So instead of creating yet another platform and trying to collate information on wildlife crime, we actually will just embed all the existing websites on wildlife crime and database on wildlife crime on our website, so professionals can easily access all the existing resources. We will also train experts, and we have communication campaign oriented to at least 10 million citizens, communicating at least 25 exemplary cases of verdicts on wildlife crime. As I already said, that we built on results of previous projects, and we also rely on a structure that we call within the project expert reference panel, which is made of organizations that are already quite experienced in wildlife crimes, such as the UN Environmental Programme, the French Gendarmerie, the European Network for Prosecutors, and similar one for the judges in the EU. We also work with BirdLife Europe. So we are really looking forward to support replication of our activities and events. And as I said, already said quite a lot of things that we are going to do. What we've done so far among the project actions is actually we've started working on developing methodology for data collection. So our first step is of the project is actually to develop that common methodology that is going to be applied in the 11 countries and go out and collect data on wildlife crimes, which is going to be done as pure collection of data together with focus groups and interviews with selected stakeholders. How we are going to do that, and this is an activity we are going to implement until September this year. My colleague Teresa Thompson, who sits in the WWF office in Slovakia, is going to tell you a little bit more on that, as she's the expert on the development of the data methodology. So Teresa, over to you.
Yes, hello, good afternoon to everyone. I hope you can see my screen now. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. So thank you, Rosalina, for the word. As you mentioned, WWF Slovakia was a partner responsible for the preparation of the methodology for data collection. I'll just turn this for the data collection. First step in reaching the objective one was preparation of these guidelines and the methodology. The objective one has an aim to prepare a robust and reliable evidence based on European wildlife crime in 11 countries to create a critical improvement in access to information and enabling comparison of data across Europe. So this was given to us by the project, and based on this we had to think about how we are going to collect and analyze comparable data on various forms of wildlife crime. We all know that data are important. They reveal what is happening actually in the field. However, oftentimes data are not collected systematically and can be scattered across various organizations. And of course, also another issue that we wanted to overcome is that sometimes data are not comparable. So within the project, as already was mentioned, we had to decide what data to collect, how to collect them. And the decision was that we will prepare a template for data collection, one common Excel sheet for data collection, and also that other data which we would not be able to gain just from collecting pure data, we would collect through structured interview with the stakeholders. These will be done through during our sort of involvement with the stakeholders, and we will especially aim our questions to find information on governance gaps and training needs. The definition of the wildlife scope of the wildlife crime in the project is quite wide, and it says that it is any form of illegal actions directly harming a protected species. During our calls within this activity, we have found out that project partners perceive this term differently, so we had to come to an agreement what actually we are going to collect, what kind of data. And we have come to the conclusion that because we are not only about the objective one, but the project has got many other objectives that Rosalina just mentioned, that we need to focus on all wildlife crime cases, not only on those that lead to conviction or those that are actually being prosecuted, but that we need to collect data also on cases that are happening, but they don't reach this prosecution chain. So there were several decisions we had to make on several issues before we started to prepare this template for data collection. One of them was the type of incident that I have just mentioned. That means we will collect information on criminal offenses, on administrative offenses, but also on incidents documented by other than law enforcement authorities, which in our cases could be the NGOs or the hunting associations, rangers, simply anybody from the field that is able to find what is happening. We also had to come into agreement for the time period of the cases we are going to collect, and we've agreed that will be for the past 5 years, any cases that are at any stage of their development during that time. And we have also come to an agreement about what species we are going to collect information about, but this is something that Rosalina mentioned in her presentation, so I will not repeat that. The same goes for the illegal actions, and that's why we had to decide on this, but that Rosalina talked about, as well as about what was the decision that we will not concentrate about and what are the other options for the project partners, because we have agreed that if time and capacity of the project partners allow for it, of course, everybody is free to collect any additional data necessary. So in relation to the preparation of table itself, this is what we were sort of, this was our starting point. 11 countries with different legislation, different priorities, different wildlife crime, different procedures and experience with data collection or access to data. So we've got these countries where we want to concentrate on collecting such a wide scope of data, crime and administrative and also others, which means we will probably be contacting quite a wide range of stakeholders and quite a lot of species we've got involved. And we knew we've got to come up with only one general template for all countries, and it was given that that should be a table sheet. So at the moment it's a Microsoft Excel, actually Google Sheet, where we've got our template. It's not a typical database program, which would probably be more suitable, but simply at the moment we are collecting data into this sheet. Google Sheet. So as you see, there were quite a lot of challenges that we had to overcome, and with the help of all the project partners and their knowledge and involvement, we have managed to come up with the Excel file that contains 6 basic worksheets. You can see at the bottom of the screen, you can see how it actually looks like. It contains of the 2 main important worksheets. One is focused on cases and one on the species. The sheet cases itself is the gros of it all. It's the main part of it all, and it contains 87 fields. Some of them are general that would apply to each case, such as the, I don't know, the name of the country, what is the total number of species involved, what happened, where happened, such a description of the case. And then there follows columns which would describe the particular information related to that case. If it is an administrative offense, we would fill in the fields for the administrative offense. If we've got the records from the police, we can fill in the information about the police, and then following through to prosecution, court decision, or any other information related to the case. We understand that not all fields will be filled in. Maybe there won't be many cases we will be able to track from the beginning till the end, but nevertheless, we are going to try to collect as much information as possible to give us an overview of the wildlife crime scope happening. We've got a separate sheet related to species. This we found is an easier option than putting it all into one. So we've got a separate sheet just speaking about any possible information we can find about species involved. These two are joined together. And then we've got several worksheets, supportive worksheets that define the acts relevant to wildlife crime in each country, some dissemination rules, whether the data would be publicly available, whether we would be able to share them. We of course wanted the table to be compatible with other tables so that it can be usable in the future. We also got a sheet with the drop-down menus and some additional information. To come to some common understanding of all the information contained in the template, we had to come up with the descriptive part of the methodology, which defines the scope of the wildlife crime and data to be collected, contains some specific rules on how to write in the data in the template and explanation of each field. This was very important so that we all make sure that we understand what to put in each field and to unite our approach in data collection. We've spent it was quite a lot of time. The project partners spent quite a lot of time with us on the calls, on commenting and offering all kinds of necessary information. And we hope that involvement of all project partners led to elimination as many mistakes as possible. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's not only data that will provide us with the information we need. We will also connect with the stakeholders in each country and try to find information that would help us to achieve other goals of the project. For that, we've come up with a template with questionnaires aimed at governance gaps and training and knowledge needs. These questions are sort of covering each part, each section of the wildlife case development, and we try to keep the questions open to sort of not to interfere with the answers and not to offer too many answers to get the real picture of the situation. We are aware that as anything in this world, this is not an ideal situation. We know we will probably come up with that there will come up some issues with it as we start the actual data collection, and we are also aware that probably not information that we will collect in these 11 countries will be comparable throughout. However, it is probably a learning experience for all of us, and we are sure that we will share this with others in our learning document. But at the end, we hope that the template that was prepared and the methodology will provide us with a better overview of what is actually happening in relation to wildlife crime in these 11 countries. So this is all from my side for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teresa and Rosalina, for this presentation and giving us a great overview on this WIDE project. I have one question. I mean, I realize that you're just at the beginning of the project and that data collection is just starting, but from your feeling, do you think wildlife crime cases in Europe have increased, decreased, stagnated over the last few years? Can you already say something about that?
We certainly, if we answer this question in positive or negative way, we will certainly need to rely on others' data and findings. And as Teresa said, actually in most of the countries where we are implementing the project, data don't exist, so we don't actually know what's happening. And what we are envisioning to see through the data collection exercise, and that will be, of course, reflected in the national report that we are going to produce towards the end of the year, is that actually there are quite a lot of cases happening of where protected species are subject to wildlife crime offenses, whichever word you'd like to use to describe it. But like a tiny portion of all these cases that some people know or don't know are happening reach law enforcement, then eventually prosecution, and like the tiniest slice or the tiniest percentage reach eventually trial. Just a recent example of similar finding is the report issued by WWF Austria on another LIFE project, where they found something like 9 cases of wildlife crime for 7 years. So this is indicative. We all know, all the people here today know that it's not like there is no like 1 or 2 cases per year. So it's much more than that. And this is what we are trying to find out, to see what's really happening, and not just on national level, focus on 1 or 2 species or group of species, but seeing the whole picture.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rosalina and Teresa, for being here with us. And looking at the time, it's almost time to move to the breakout sessions now. I will tell you how these breakout sessions work, but firstly, I would like to thank all of the speakers again for taking the time to being here today and offering us their perspective on wildlife crime, sharing their experiences on how to prevent, better prosecute, and enforce wildlife crime. I learned a lot today. I hope you also learned something from this meeting. We will compile a report with summaries of the talks and the main results, also from the breakout groups. We have recorded this webinar. It will be available on our website later. I would also like to thank my colleagues here at WWF Germany, Nina, Leonie, and Raphael, who have been running this webinar behind the scenes, making sure your questions are all getting answered and making sure we have no technical problems. Thanks a lot. So regarding the breakout sessions, we have 3 different breakout sessions that you can join. We are posting the link now in the chat to our website. And it's very easy. You have 3 different breakout sessions you can choose from. They are all individual Zoom meetings, because in this webinar we cannot have breakout sessions. So once this meeting is over, check the website and select one of the three breakout sessions. The first one is about prosecution. You have already been introduced to Marton, who talked about dogs, and together with Laszlo from WWF Hungary, they will talk about prosecution in this breakout group, and they would like to hear your experience also of good and bad examples of collecting evidence in the field, getting a search warrant, having good work relationships with investigators and prosecutors. So that's what this breakout session is about. Then we have breakout session 2, which is on data collection, and Rosalina will host this session together with her colleagues. And they would like to discuss with you more in depth the methodology that Swipe is proposing for collecting data. So they would really appreciate your feedback on this. And then the third session is on wildlife trafficking. It's run by Filippo and Isidoro from EuroLarge Research Institute. They both focus on biodiversity conservation and awareness, community and environmental law, public international law, and wildlife crime. And so this session offers you a more global perspective. They want to talk to you about the global initiative to regulate wildlife trafficking proposed by the Global Initiative to End Wildlife Crime. So I think we have 3 exciting opportunities for you to discuss and get to know each other a bit better. And so, yeah, I would like to thank you all for participating in today's webinar. We had a great crowd of participants. Sometimes there were 250 people joining at the same time. Thank you very much. All the best. Join us in the breakout sessions. Bye-bye.